it's just past 3, and in the interest of making time, may I welcome, Tanya Friedrichs from the EU delegation in Delhi to share a few words and welcome remarks, to the audience. Tanya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lina. But in the first place, thank you so much to all those that registered. We have a great number of registrations that shows the interest in the initiative. And to make that initiative happen, I have also in the first place to thank you, Lina. You've been the motor of this initiative together with a couple of member states. At the end, it is a joint deliverable of the idea of strengthening cooperation between Europe and India on innovation, something that we had in mind or were mandated. Not only we had in mind, but it was our leaders at the summit in 2017 who mandated us to do so. And then once we had to do so, we had the liberty or the duty to translate that. We have done various ways and means to strengthen innovation, because there was this vision or this idea, this dream that we should also explore innovation with India, and not only what I've been working on for 4 years since I've been stationed in New Delhi for the research and innovation cooperation between the EU and India. Not only really the classical research and innovation cooperation, but innovation. And we have then designed with a pilot project several actions, and to one of the actions, namely the network of incubators, came the idea that we should go to a next level and also offer opportunities directly for startups. And there are several ways to do that. But again, thanks to the ideas of a couple of member states, and I would like to mention them here if you allow me. We had the Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, and Austria mainly that brainstormed brainstormed with you, and we came everybody is still...
Tanya, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to make an announcement. Sorry. May I request all the participants to mute their mics because there is a disturbance. Mr. EIZI Molnar, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. Tanya, now over to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having done that. I heard that. But long story short, we are looking at various levels, various means, various tools to strengthen the innovation dimension between Europe and India. And this is one of it. And it is, what is it? Within our network of incubators, we did some scoping, some preliminary discussions, and we found 2 strong incubators that understood the merits of having what we have called an European innovation zone. That is a place where if we as bureaucrats, whether it's from Austria, from Belgium, from Spain, from us at EU level, also you, Lina, you cannot cope with all the questions and you don't have all the answers to everything. We have a place where we say, you have a potential, you have a question, you want to find out about the innovation ecosystem in India and what the opportunities are. Well, then we have created a landing zone. We send you to respectively C Camp in Bangalore or T Hub in Hyderabad. That is a bit what it is. What happens then and there we have less to say and to do. That I want to say. That's why we have organized this virtual roadshow so that you could see what it is. And that is also why I'm happy that we have different types of people attending this roadshow today. We have a large number of research and innovation councillors that are stationed in the embassies in New Delhi, representing their country, and they will see what we see today, and they will multiply that information. And when they are interviewed or approached by their startups or incubators, we expect them that they use that landing zone to respectively C Camp or T Hub. We have other participants of a more institutional nature, or again, that is the multiplying effect that we expect. But above all, what we're very happy is that we managed to have the startups, because this is a tool for startups. It is the startups that have to see what a vibrant environment there is in India and how much support they can get to make their ID together with Indian IDs mature, co-develop and co-create. So I stop here. I welcome it very much that this virtual roadshow is taking place. We would all have preferred to be in Bangalore, to be at C Camp, to go to Hyderabad and be in the beautiful campus house of T Hub. But let's be very pleased that we can already do it virtually. Let's take advantage of the open doors of C Camp later this afternoon of T Hub. Use this opportunity to see what they have to offer, and more so for questions, and even more so, please, we have the landing zone. We need the planes now to land and to act. And that is what should happen. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
Thank you, Tanya, for your encouraging and invigorating words to start this session. So without any delay, we need to get to, what we want to do today is hear from the EU innovation zones. So I'd like to welcome CCAMP. First of all, would really like to thank CCAMP for your excellent collaboration over the last few months in preparing the EU innovation zones in India. And, you have been very agile and efficient and enthusiastic in making all of this work. Tasleem, my dear old friend, always, on the front lines to look at doing exciting new work. So I'm going to hand over to the CCAM team now for the next 1.5 hours, so we can all, join in this roadshow and feel like we are a part of your ecosystem today. Over to you, Tasleem and Shubham.
Thank you so much, Tanya and Lena. I think we are very, very excited and to be a part of the very exciting innovation initiative, which from the top would possibly be able to bring people together in terms of innovation ecosystem zone. And of course, I have my colleague Shubham Singh here who is helping us on the ground. But just on a lighter note, if I may say so, Lena, you said, my dear old friend, old is something pinching a bit, but I'll take it for now. So, always good to work together. And of course, fantastic friends from the EU side, Tanya, Frech, Adrian, and many more who are always been very, very supportive of our efforts. So it's very exciting. What we want to do is that we are actually looking for to use this collaboration with EU as a real next stage launch pad to take our innovations to EU and EU to India. And we are very excited that we have been able to do that. I'll share my screen for now, if I may, and then see if I can take it from there 1 second. Yeah, this is the one. At the same time, I want to more or less also thank many of our friends and colleagues who are part of the larger CCAM network, who have joined from the investor side, from the medtech startups, from many other startups who have joined today. And they will also kind of share their work, which may align well with European Union's efforts in medtech, in agriculture, in environment, and so on. So we see this as an exciting opportunity to work with EU as a whole and build those ties. So very quickly, I'll take possibly 10 to 15 minutes and hopefully save some time. CCAMP is an initiative supported by Department of Biotechnology and we are a part of one of the most exciting biological science research hub, which has now been combines from the biological science research as well as innovation hub. So we have NCBS, InSTEM, and CCAM together. We form the Bangalore Life Science Cluster. It actually provides one of the best environments to do fundamental research and take those research ideas from within the campus or outside to the next level. And last 10 years has been a fantastic journey in terms of how we are able to support cutting edge research through our technology platforms vertical, as well as brilliant ideas towards its productization and societal impact. 1 second. Yeah. So CCAM has been positioned as an enabler, a catalyst to, to foster life science research and innovation in the country. And we are doing it broadly. Okay. We are doing it through the technology platforms. This is one of our vertical, which actually allows access to one of the most cutting edge capabilities and tools in terms of life science research. And I'll give you a very quick example of that. It is very, these tools are the actually more or less driving engines of scientific research, be it a basic science or applied science or translation. And access to this really high end capabilities plus expertise is a key, and possibly this expertise is unparalleled in India right now. There is no other place which under one umbrella these high capabilities are available, or even expertise is available. So that's a great strength that I wanted to share with my European friends today that CCAMP has to begin with. And then we definitely another important vertical that we have added is identifying interesting ideas and help them through the various levels of the journey of entrepreneurship and nurturing them towards productization. So these are the technology platforms that I was mentioning, and without going into details, this is possibly one of the most high-end capabilities available in India, where you have flow cytometry to high-end genomics, screening, microscopy, structural biology, mass spectrometry of all kinds, transgenic animals, microfabrication and microfluidics facilities. All those are under one more or less roof, and we are actually making it accessible to people across India. This is a kind of distribution which is available. So people who like to use it from India or outside India, they have been able to just reach out to us with a simple email, services@ccam.res.in, and we have been able to build that forward. Last 6 months, we have had a slow work on it because of restrictions and the spread of COVID, but we are actually slowly and steadily trying to get back into rhythm of making those available to researchers from academia, from startups and industry. A lot of work has been done and a lot of publications have come out of this setup. The second aspect is where we have the ability under the entrepreneurship vertical to fund early ideas, incubate them, very importantly, mentor them. We believe that hand holding and mentoring has been the key for success for many startups at CCAM, where we have been able to nurture those exciting ideas and give them good guidance with the help of experts. Some of the experts you will hear today who are actually a critical part of CCAM's capability, which provides understanding in terms of science, business, tech transfer, investment, regulatory, distribution channels, supply chains, and so on and so forth. And those have been very, very good. And then we have started accelerating programs per se. This is overall broad aspects of presence of CCAMP across India through its startups. So what we say is that while CCAMP is headquartered in Bangalore, we have presence across India through our startups. So its idea is not to necessarily say that we provide four walls. It's more about we provide the know-how, we provide the understanding. We actually bring expertise on the table for young startups and help them through that. So if somebody sitting, if as far as in the northeast of India, or possibly somewhere far away in Europe, it more or less is the same for us, where we actually are working with European startups as we speak. Its idea about is to give them the understanding. I'll just go to the next slide. This is a busy slide, but it indicates the confluence. It indicates a critical mass of understanding we have built through our many startups we have supported. We have now 200 startups that we have funded, and we are in touch with possibly 1,500 to 2,000 startups through our many programs. And those programs are right now working in different areas. I'll not tell anything about the programs. It will take a lot of time. But major broad areas that we are working on has been affordable healthcare, agriculture, antimicrobial resistance, maternal child health, geriatrics, that is for old age health, innovations for public health, AI-driven biotech or health tech, and clean tech. These are just identified areas, but I think the list goes very far. We have been very lucky to have many startups. Some of them will talk about their work today, like the Dr. Sri Kumar Surinan will talk about their work in terms of disciplinary. At the same time, we will have someone like Errol. Dr. Errol will talk about their work at String Bio in clean tech, and there are many other startups which have which the startups who have actually now possibly not only nationally but globally recognized for the kind of work they do. Having these startups has given us strength for connection with investors, having us given us the capability to work with academic experts, industrial experts, regulators, IP tech transfer experts, and broad government agency in India. So the understanding of how to take an idea towards a market in this broad healthcare, agriculture, and animal health is an important thing.
Just a sec, Taslim. I can see that some people are unmuted. May I request all the participants to go on mute? Mr. Jan Hansen, if you could just mute yourself, I'm sorry. There's been a disturbance. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Taslim, over to you again.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lena. Possibly I needed a breather as well. So thanks for that. But just going back on that, so this is a real confluence of capabilities in medtech, in healthcare, in devices, in diagnostics, in agriculture, in clean environment. A lot of exciting innovation attempts are being done, and this all actually allow us to learn, and that's a know-how that we have, and this is something that we can actually give to European innovations when they are looking to build ties in India. That know-how is possibly, I would say, unparalleled and something that is intangible, and this is something we would love to extend it to our collaborators from Europe. So we have global presence, of course. I think we are very delighted to be in the 10 world-class accelerators to be funded by BARDA's program called CARBEX in the US, the only one outside US and Europe. We have actually followed up with excellent work, and luckily we have very good work. We have collaborations with in Europe with University of Edinburgh at Rosalind Institute. We have collaborations with Japan with BNV Innovation Hub, where we are co-funding startups. And of course, we have excellent work going on in Netherlands that we actually already have collaboration on AMR and digital health, including in Switzerland, we have collaboration on digital health. The good thing is that we have in CARBEX, which is world's biggest AMR funding program, they have funded 3 Asian companies, 3 companies from Asia till now, and all 3 of them are from India, and all 3 of them are from Bangalore CCamp. So that is very, very exciting thing, I would say, in terms of the way we have been able to take science to the forward. On the right top, you see some of our work, some of our startups work is now reaching far, where there is the Corona oven made by Log9 materials based out of Bangalore has actually been used apparently in France President's residence. Bugworks is recognized in world's top 36 game-changing innovation. Koyo Labs, which is saving lives for in ICU settings, has been recognized as the Commonwealth Innovation Award last year and got the award from Prince Harry, as you can see in the picture. More or less what this indicates is that our innovations are absolutely, taking it all the way in terms of global scale. And we would love to collaborate now and use that opportunity, this European collaborators as well. Knowing this, that we have now interest from because of our our engagements and dialogues with European colleagues in India and outside, we decided to build a program which we call it as a CNRI. NRI is a usual term used in India for non-resident Indians who are outside India, but are and so we built an NRI program where in India, in the Indian as well as international startups who want to associate with CCAM can do that. So this non-resident national international incubation program actually engages with startups on monthly basis, understand what their efforts are, responds to them and advises them on their own. And Shubham again is in charge, taking care of that. So this is something that is something that we would like to build on and further. So while startups may not need to be here, they can connect with us structurally and not only one email and one Skype, but structurally to have dialogues on a regular level. And sometimes casual dialogues, but structured casual dialogues lead to very exciting outcomes. So that is something we have built here. So in a way, what if I, this is my last slide, I'll not take, is that the strength of the European Innovation Zone in India at CCAM, we are delighted to be, it would connect you with one of the best ecosystem in terms of life science in India. It would also connect you with our ecosystem and the hub and spoke model in terms of investors and other stakeholders like funding bodies, VCs, IP firms, CROs, distribution network, and so on. Connect with government and regulatories in a way, which is very important aspect in terms of how one looks at it from the what happens in the primary healthcare center, which is run by government, to a tertiary care center, sometimes are run in a private setup. And more importantly, industry mentors and CCAM startup, which actually a very healthy, exciting intellectual work that happens in terms of building innovations and so on. I'll stop here and happy to take questions, but we are very excited and thank you all who are involved in it to help us become a part of this initiative in the first round and in the one of only two along with T-Hub. So it's a very proud moment for us. We are delighted and happy to collaborate with you further. We can be reached at ccam.res.in on the or the email ID NRI under incubation@ccam.res.in. And of course, we can't go without social media handle. We can be followed ccam_Bangalore on Twitter or Facebook. Thank you all and happy to take questions if there are any.
Great. Tasleem, what would be nice is if you can welcome your next speakers as well for your session. That would be very helpful.
Absolutely. We'll be delighted to do that. Shubham, would you be able to introduce yourself and then invite our colleagues?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Shubham, and I am basically taking care of the virtual incubation program at CCAM and also this European Innovation Zone in India now. And our next speaker will be Mr. Mukesh Sharma from Mentera. So Mentera is a VC firm and he's co-founder and managing director of Mentera. So Mr. Mukesh will be covering the investment aspect of Indian ecosystem, Indian startup ecosystem. So now I'll be handing the stage to Mr. Mukesh.
Yes, and just a moment, I just want to mention to everybody before Mukesh speaks that Shubham is also the point contact at CCAM for the European Innovation Zone in India. So if you go to the startupeuropeindia.net website, you will see his telephone number and email ID readily available to any of the startups here who have, a question. It could be even a very basic question about, I want to come to India. What do I do? Or it could be about, this is my technology. Do you think, we should land in India with you? So a lot of the times when we are exploring a new market, we have these so-called silly questions in our mind. But the important thing is to make that first move and ask that question. And that's why for both the innovation zones, we have a point contact. So Shubham, sorry, I had to interrupt to mention this so everybody could see you and, stay connected with you going forward. And yes, Mukesh, sorry to interrupt,
sure.
but yes, over to you now.
Sure. Thank you, Lena.
Apologies, Lena. He's Joseph speaking. One favor, what I would like to ask for all the contacts, is it possible for us as a startups to prepare some sort of pack or some contact list, which then can be shared via email, so we can actually then follow up with the different participants?
Definitely. And on the chat, I'm just going to put the link to the web page, which already has this contact information. But post this, this roadshow, we will also send you, little kit, so you could be, with the recording of the webinar as well as the contact details. Happy to do that, Joseph.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So last thing I would like to add is that the number on the website is my WhatsApp number, so you can always drop your message. So it's I feel WhatsApp is relatively very easy. So yeah, so it will be more real-time communication. So yes, and then maybe we can take it forward.
Absolutely, and just to say that another of my colleague, Dr. Nilanjana, is also with us. She may not be. I think she's there. So just
तो इसको जानते हैं क्या? हाँ और ये भी है कॉर्नर.
Okay, back to you.
Yeah, Mr. Mukesh, can you please start with your session?
Sure. Thank you. It's great to be here with all of you today. Changing times, new realities require more and more collaboration within our borders and across our borders. So it's great to see, startups from India and Europe really collaborating, and the ecosystems coming together. Really happy to see that. I'm representing Mentera here. CCamp is one of our few exclusive incubation partners. Taslim didn't say this, but I will say it, that it is one of the best biotech incubators globally. So any of you trying to do anything in biotech, definitely I think CCamp is the place to go for in India. Just quickly talking about Mentera, we are an investment fund focused on addressing the biggest issues facing agriculture, healthcare, and education in India through private investments, while we focus on generating commercial returns and big sectoral impact. We also have a pretty old incubator, Will Grow, almost 20-year-old, one of the first incubators, impact-focused incubators launched in India. And we have incubation centers in Africa and parts of Southeast Asia also. Today, I'm going to talk to all of you about the startup funding environment in India and how it has evolved over the last 5-10 years, and what are the opportunities, what are the challenges. So if you look at startups and if you look at the funding and support continuum that is required across the valley of death, India as a market, the venture capital, the private equity funding startup environment is quite recent in India. Startup activity is quite recent in India. Most of the funds are about 10-15 years old. Startup activity started picking up in last 5 to 10 years. So you won't see the whole continuum fully built. There are many activities. There are a lot of initiatives that have been launched in different parts of this continuum, but it's not fully built yet. The incubation and acceleration activity in the country is rapidly maturing. Today, you will see incubation centers becoming common at all the leading academic institutions in India. There are a number of government agencies and industry associations that have launched several initiatives. Large Indian corporates and MNCs have also launched their own initiatives, while some have partnered with existing incubators. The private incubation activity in India is also picking up pace very rapidly with increasing number of accelerator programs. I'm sorry, there's someone in the waiting room. Is someone looking at that? Because it's constantly flashing on my screen. So there are number of private incubators also, and now you see number of accelerator programs that have been backed by marquee venture capital and private equity funds in India. Angel investments in India are about 8 to 10 years old. Started with 2 groups in India, but now they have really there are separate groups in each of the top tier 1 and 2 cities in India. Many of the successful entrepreneurs have built their direct portfolios also. Impact fund industry in India is rapidly picking up. There's a lot of action over the last few years within the impact space in India. The Indian VC industry, if you look at it, the funding side of it in India has gone through 3 distinct phases in the last decade. If you look at a phase between 2011 to 15, it's very rapidly evolving startup environment. There's a lot of positive, environment around first generation entrepreneur funding and scaling them. Then we saw a little bit of moderation between 2015 and 17, where fewer transactions took place, but very high quality transactions took place. Since 2018, some really large exits have taken place in the country, which have renewed investor confidence. Number of transactions in India, you can say between 400 to 750, and the capital that gets invested is between $3 to $10 billion. These are macro numbers, macro data. The number of active funds in the country are between 250 to 300 active funds in the country. So if we look at these numbers for a $2.5 trillion economy, India would be somewhere between $2.5 to $3 trillion. $10 billion is only 40 basis points to startups, right? So it's still pretty small. And more than half of these funds really go to a handful of unicorns, and large part of the balance is allocated towards fintech, food tech, and e-commerce app and digital economy. The bulk of real economy is left out. If you look at social enterprises, they get about $1 billion, less than 4 basis points of GDP. It's a rounding error. Almost 80% of this is invested in microfinance, fintech, and energy companies. So core sectors that are crucial for development, well aligned with ESG, environment, impact goals like agriculture, healthcare, and education have not received sufficient funding historically. However, the current pandemic and many reforms launched by the government is beginning to change that. You can see that changing in last 3 to 6 months. But still, there is a gap. Biggest gap is at the seed and Series A stage between $500,000 to $5 million. That's where you see a large gap. In addition to funding, there are a number of other enabling factors that are really helping the startups, getting launched or operating in the country. We have, of course, had large software technology and pharmaceutical industry. The many experienced professionals from India, overseas markets, having had the experience of working in Europe and US, returning to India, becoming investors, mentors, or taking up advisory and board roles with the startups. A lot of them are now increasingly interested in joining the execution teams as well. The digital infrastructure in the country has gotten a lot better. Pre-COVID, it was already getting better, but now post-COVID, you see that getting a lot better. One important point to note for those of you who are not incorporated or registered in India, for the funds that operate in India, there are 2 different structures. There are onshore funds, which are registered in India, incorporated in India, and there are offshore funds, which are registered in other places like Mauritius, Singapore. Increasingly, people are looking at Ireland and one or two other European centers also. So there are offshore funds and there are onshore funds. And under Indian regulations, any company that is not incorporated in India, if an onshore fund, a fund which is registered in India, has to invest in that, it requires regulatory approval. That's a slightly time-consuming process. So when you are looking to raise capital from India, please bear that in mind, whether they are onshore or offshore, and how much time will it take for them to get the approvals. But if your company is incorporated in India, then there are no such restrictions, better chance of really getting capital from both onshore and offshore funds. While registering in India, many of you will also need to look at what are you registering in India. If you're registering only an operating entity and the core IP resides in an entity abroad, that won't be exciting for investors. So some of these regulatory aspects that you may need to take care of, this is a short conversation, so I can't really go go too deep into this, but I'm pretty sure for those of you who want to invest in India, you'll take appropriate advice before developing your fundraising strategy. I'll pause here and see if there are any questions. Otherwise, over to you, Shubham, Leena, for the next segment.
Yeah. So participants, the floor is open for questions. So if you have maybe either you can ask directly, or I'm looking in the chat box as well, so you can type in there as well. Or if you can't think of any questions right now, you can always email me or WhatsApp.
Yeah, this is actually especially for Mr. Mukesh, because I believe he has to move on, after the session. So if you have any questions on the Indian investor environment, what needs to be done, if you want to seek investment in India for your startup, this is a good time. Or you can feel free to contact Shubham, and who can take that question to him later on, whatever works for you. I think, Shubham, you can move on, and we can just request people to type their questions in the chat for us to pick up later on. So yeah, I think you can move on to the next speaker from your session. Thanks a lot, Mukesh. It was very interesting comments from your side. And I always feel that we get asked this question constantly for a European startup coming into India. How can, we reach out to investors? So I think your comments did cover, a few of those points, which are very crucial for them to understand that, yes, there is a conduit, there is a way to come to India and also, register your company and reach out to local Indian investors as well, who are very interested to look at innovative businesses that can in any case grow and have the right kind of revenue and the right kind of customers, so to speak. So thank you so much for that.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Leena. Thank you, Shubham.
Thank you, Mr. Mukesh. Our next speaker is Dr. Vijay Sinha. So he is CEO of Audicor Cardiometrics Private Limited. They are developing new technologies for screening cardiac dysfunctions, and also he's in advisory committee of Level Cell Foundation. So over to you, Dr. Vijay.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a pleasure to be here. I thought probably I'll start off with a set of slides, and since I was not too sure about what level I should pitch my slides on, I assumed that we are all, we'd start at 101 level, which is basically something about, doing business in India and what people know about India and its culture and its infrastructure. So I won't, I will do a top level coverage of what are the areas where I have seen a lot of international companies need advice and to some extent mentoring. But since many of these business processes keep changing over time, so therefore I would say that part of my discussion could be obsolete by the time I started. So let's anyway start with this. Am I sharing my screen? No, I forgot to put the sharing screen share. Can I share the screen, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Shubham, if you can just provide the screen share to Vijay.
Yeah, already.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, so this is, I titled it, I was struggling for a title for this slideshow. And I thought Easy Living is one of my favorite songs from Uriah Heep. So I thought I'll give it that name, but it probably has nothing to do with Uriah Heep anyway. One of the key words that is happening within the Indian milieu is basically this word, Atma Nirbhar Bharat. I don't know how many of you can pronounce it, but it took me a while, and it's one of the more important national policies that most of us have been driven by. And the reason why we've, sort of got to doing this alignment with this policy was the fact that as a country, we suddenly woke up and found that we were completely dependent upon so many other countries for our science and technology products, and in some ways even for the essentials. Especially during COVID, even the masks also had to be imported. So this was a wake-up call, in short, and this policy came in, and it involves a number of sub-activities, um, which which of course the government has taken a lot of initiatives into developing. Science and technology was a subject that we needed to implement in some of our processes as well as in our products. Skill development suddenly became very important because we needed human capital for being able to do the economic, to keep the economic engine running, and also the factories running. Industry 4.0 was also conceived during that time. What we realized when we woke up also was that the infrastructure and the supply chain side also had to be internalized in many ways, because when we were trying to make products, we couldn't find subcomponents or components to be able to support us. And then obviously financial resources started coming in, courtesy folks like Mentera and the BIRAC and other organizations, so that startup companies can continue to do their nation building activities. And supportive policies from the government came in. A large component of it, of course, came in from the government in terms of ensuring capital as well as high risk capital, as well as policies that would allow the small and medium enterprise or even startup companies to flourish. Would you like to pronounce this word? Atma Nirbhar Bharat. Don't forget that important word. Some of the idiosyncrasies that are a part of our Indian market, maybe a little outdated in this, but I still do see these elements as I go around the market trying to sell some of my products. Is that there is an inherent distrust by default, and you build trust with your customers only after you've proven to be trustworthy. So it's like saying that you're guilty until proven innocent, kind of an approach. This is something that a lot of people find discerning, especially people from Europe and Japan. But the thing is, of course, it's part of a lot of cultures, but this is predominantly something that startup companies need to work themselves up, which means that you need to be able to build a trustful brand. The first question that whenever you show a product to a customer is, what's the price? Even before they know what the product does, right? And this is quite common across many of the customers, is that they look at the price as something that will decide whether it is it's something that they can afford, right, to buy. And if it is not something that they can afford, there is no point discussing any further. This is what basically the concept is when they ask what's the price. The other aspect of what's the price is that is it something that gives me prestige by owning it, so that I can show off, to my friends that I have something very expensive, similar to what the latest Apple phones would, kind of bring that kind of feeling when you're in a crowd. The other aspect is that they want to see how much they can actually push the product that they buy to do things, as many things as possible. So a typical case is, can my cell phone become a ventilator when I get COVID? Has been a question a lot of times when people looked at my ventilator and said that, can you make my cell phone into a ventilator, that sort of a thing. And this is a kind of expectation, or a kind of thing where you try to get the maximum bang out of the buck, I guess, from these products. You will face this many a times, and the other part of it is, of course, that we kind of underplay some of our abilities to be able to develop our own products for certain reasons of many years of trying to be an emerging nation, and we haven't become emerged as yet. But I think all nations are emerging at some point. But have my counterparts in the Western world adopted it would make a very important factor in the adoption of your product, especially in the medical devices area. And the other part of it is the ROI and payback of any product is calculated on the capital cost of the product and not really on the cost of ownership. So there are many guys who can play it very carefully by saying that, okay, my product costs only $500, but the consumable cost per patient or per year is going to cost close to $5,000. That is not seen, right? So the concept of value is emerging in our country, and it's a conundrum for most of us because we don't know where to actually project our product as what it is. So it starts off with the capital price, as I said, the aesthetic parts of it, the look, the color, the quality is associated with aesthetics mainly rather than the robustness of the technology. And other off-label uses, as I said, can it be used for other things? Like, for example, we phone for almost 70% of our banking activities and stuff like that. So, it's a part of that thing. Can it be
Vijay,
vacuum cleaned?
Vijay, yeah, I just need you to pause because I need to request a few of the participants to mute themselves. Sorry about that again. There's Mark. Could you please mute yourself? There's a lot of disturbance. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Vijay. Over to you again.
Such a lot of excitement. Anyway, I never expected that. Yeah, so the next level, what people kind of try to incorporate into their value proposition is also how much of consumables it will use and what would be the overall cost of it and its impact on waste or the environment, if you can call it that way. The third part of it is like suddenly, oh, I need service support and I need replacement parts. That's an additional expenditure, but I never considered those things in the beginning. So that gets into, so the whole concept of a total value of a product, the understanding is now moving towards what we call as a lifetime social and environmental impact value of the product. And many times, especially in nuclear-based devices or nuclear reactors, the cost of decommissioning and the end of life is a major challenge for many countries. I mean, the fact is that its impact would have been there, but then decommissioning was sometimes more expensive than setting up, a nuclear power plant by itself. So that is one. And then, of course, the changing fashions and the utility life cycle, which is basically it was useful now it may not be useful. Many of the guys who are now working on COVID may find the technology become obsolete when COVID moves away, but if they are working on platform technologies, they may find it useful when COVID-21 or COVID-20 comes in, right? So these are some of the thinking processes that are happening in the country. And I think for each of these stages, we need to have a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, so, it's a mind map in terms of the hand-holding activities that happen here. The mind map takes us through a number of different stakeholders, which have different perceptions about what your product is. And you won't believe it, but I have a PPT for each of these stakeholders separately with a different set of communications. And it's necessary that we need to communicate to them on what benefits and what values they will get for a technology like ours, say, something that can measure cardiac diseases at an early stage and see whether it fits into their, one has to be able to understand the culture and the milieu of these various persons, stakeholders within the group here. And to a large extent, I think we have mentors that actually specialize in some of these areas to be able to have deep insights about what's happening on the ground, what's happening with each of these stakeholders. And so therefore, what's the best way to position your product and discuss the product with your stakeholder to see how much benefit and value they can get out of it. I think that's something that I have put together, and we have mentors that cover these areas. I think even C Camp also has a group of people who specialize in these areas, and I guess the important part of it is to latch onto these folks to be able to understand what your um, pitch is going to look like before you go and meet them personally. Thank you very much. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to answer questions here, or if you'd like to send it by email or some communication method, WhatsApp or whatever it is. I've taken 2 minutes more than what my brief is. Oh, that head nod is something you got to get used to.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. Thank you for the wonderful session. It was actually a crash course for our participants here. So you have covered all, I guess, all the aspect of when it comes to mentorship and advices which they may need here in India. So thank you so much. The floor is open for questions. So anyone, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. You can type in as well. And also email is always an option. So anyone?
Well, I think it was a very general coverage of like a directory of things that you could do, a checklist. So people would have items in the checklist which they say, I need more clarification on this, which of course we could work on those questions as they come to you, Shubham.
Sure. Definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Vijay.
Yeah.
So we'll be moving to our next speaker, Mr. Lalit Kishore. He is CEO of Index program at CCAM. And before his current role, he was CEO of Reprocell, molecular biology services company. And before that, he was with GE Healthcare. So with this quick introduction, I would like to hand over the platform to Mr. Lalit. Mr. Lalit, are you here? Yeah, I can see him.
I'm unmuting myself. That's all. I don't know how essential it is for you to see me, but let me make sure I'm good looking enough to turn my video on. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, very happy to be here. When Vijay just mentioned that there's a couple of people at C Camp who kind of do this whole value proposition thing quite regularly. One of them who does that is me. One of them who does that on a routine basis is me. Quite routinely, I work with companies to help them look at their products, look at their own inventions, or look at their own novel service offerings and help them build value propositions around it. The idea is that from the perspective of the startup community that we're addressing across the country, for a lot of people, setting up a company and launching their product or services is the ultimate aim of their life. So what I tell them usually is that congratulations, you have already achieved this big aim in your life. Now, why don't you go ahead and start to look at the thing from a novel perspective, where you actually start to put the customer front and center and build extremely strong value propositions. Why have you built this product and who have you built this for? Might sound like a very easy question to answer. But in all honesty, this is an extremely tough question for you to answer. Who are you selling your product to is one of the questions that people struggle the most with. Typical example, and again, I'm sure Vijay and a lot of others will identify with this kind of a thing, is medical devices, where I come from. So are you selling a medical device to a patient? Are you selling it to a doctor? Are you selling it to a diagnostic clinic? Are you selling it to the purchase section in the hospital? Are you selling it to the hospital administration? Are you selling it to the owner of the hospital? Are you selling it to the nurse who is actually finally going to use this device on the patient? Who are you selling this for becomes an extremely important thing, because each of the people in the chain has a different value that they look for, a different thing that they look for in the product or the service that you're offering. And for each of these people, you will have to sell it differently, sometimes very, very differently from one another. What a nurse or the administrator, the person who is administering the test finds attractive is not necessarily what the hospital finds attractive. If the hospital administration or the purchase section finds the price attractive, then it's not something that usually the user, the doctor finds attractive. So how do you kind of build value proposition for a product around the kind of people who are making the purchases, the decision makers, the influencers, the users, the patients? Identifying stakeholders and building value propositions is one very, very key, a very key aspect of what you will need to do. And I would, like Vijay said, again, welcome the opportunity to work with any of you through quite a few forums that we have set up at CCamp. If you want to sit along with us and work with us to kind of let you explore these options, that is one thing that we'd definitely like you to do. If you are in the process of development, if you're in the process of development, then there is no better time than now to actually sit down and work around the value propositions of your product or service. If you've already done it, then it's a little bit of a, going back and looking at it and stuff like that. But if you're in the process of development, then developing a clear value proposition statement for your product or service, and then almost doing everything else that you do with your product or service around that value proposition statement, making that the true north for your product or service would be a good way to go about. Like I said, again, very happy to interact with all of you and see if there is any place where we can actually work together. Thanks, Shubham.
Thank you, Mr. Lalit, for the talk. And definitely, value proposition is very important for startups. Yeah. So thank you for covering that aspect. So any questions from the participants? We'll be taking for Mr. Lalit here now. So then we'll be moving to our startup category of talks. So anyone with the questions, you can unmute yourself. You can type in the chat box. Anyone? Okay, so we'll be moving to our startup category of sessions. So our first startup is String Bio. So Azil is here from String Bio. She is founder and CEO of String Bio. So requesting Azil to please start with the session.
Yeah, and Shubham, if I may again, it's very interesting that CCamp has invited 5 of your startups to actually present in the session. Yes. And what I want to mention to the audience and especially the participating European startups is you should use this chance to interact because, and ask questions, because here are startups who are already working with at CCamp and who are leveraging its various services and infrastructure and also going through the grind every day like you are in your country. So if you have questions and, please feel free to reach out to them and make this session interactive. So the session with startups is meant to be interactive. So yes, so please, feel free to interact with the startups as well during this session. Yes, so Azil, yeah, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Shubham, can I share my screen?
Yes, you can, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Really nice to connect with all of you this afternoon. So String is a biotech startup incubated at CCAM. I'll take a few minutes to just walk you through kind of the technology that we're developing at String, as well as talk about a few of the products. And as Lena highlighted, it would be great if any of you have questions, please feel free to jump in and we can have more of a discussion around the work that we're doing as well as what our experience has been. So I think this is true for a lot of startups, right? Let me see if I can move this out. So for most of us, this has been the journey when you're first pitching your startup. The day before something is a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And this is something that is particularly true for the work that we've been doing at String. We are a synthetic biology startup. And our crazy idea was to say that we really want to enable cleaner and better ways of living by taking what we call our next generation ingredients or next generation raw materials into different end use markets, right? So some of the markets that we were targeting are nutrition. So protein that can go into both animal as well as human nutrition, raw materials that can go into the agriculture space as well as personal care space. But the big differentiator for us is that we really wanted to enable newer ways of manufacturing that don't have a huge environmental toll, that in fact are significantly carbon neutral or carbon negative, so that we can scale up and provide for a growing population in a much more cleaner way, and also have huge supply chain efficiencies. And I'll just walk you through how we plan to do it. So for us, the big differentiator was that we wanted to use methane gas. So methane, a very potent greenhouse gas, but interestingly, also a very good source of energy. We wanted to use methane gas, and using the advances that we have made in the area of biotech and biology, we wanted to develop a fermentation process using which we can convert this methane into raw materials that can then go into different end use markets, right? So we started this work 6 years back. And over the last 6 years, we've got a very robust platform that we've developed to enable this conversion. We can work with methane coming from different sources today. We work with methane coming from natural gas. So we work with partners in the oil and gas sector. We also work with methane coming from biogas. So this will be a truly circular economy solution because we can take waste, convert it to methane, and then convert the energy that is there into methane into the raw materials that are required for the different end use markets, right? So to do this, we've developed a platform. We call it the String Integrated Methane Platform, or SIMP. And over the last 6 years, we've filed a number of IPs around the core process itself. What do I mean by this? Well, at the core of our platform, we've developed the fermentation process. So if you look at what we humans have done over the last 60 years, right? Let's say about since 1940s, we've used fermentation to make different products, whether they are products that go into the pharma sector, into the food sector, into enzymes. But most of these are fermentation that use soluble substrates. We've enabled now very efficient fermentation to work with a gaseous substrate like methane. So that's kind of the core technology that we've developed. In addition to this, one of the key aspects of this is also the kind of strains that we need to work with that can do this conversion efficiently for different products. So we worked on the upstream aspects in terms of the kind of feedstock that this will work with, the type of bacteria that goes into the process, as well as downstream chemistry in terms of purification of these products for the different end use markets that we're targeting. Our business model is primarily B2B. So we are not looking to put, at least right now, the final product into the market. We are working with partners who will then formulate and take these products and commercialize these products. So very briefly, I'm going to give you a feel for one of our products. which is the alternative product for the alternative protein sector, right? So when we started this work a few years back, this was really a crazy idea. But I'm sure as all of you have followed, this industry has really evolved in the last few years. And it's rapidly growing because there is a growing requirement for high quality protein, whether it is for animal nutrition or for human nutrition. And for us, we are at a point where when the market and consumer awareness is growing around this, we also have products that are ready for the market, that are clean, that are scalable, and as I said, that are very sustainable because we're making this protein from a greenhouse gas. So, so what are the pluses of this? So one of the first things is because we are manufacturing the protein, it is very clean, it is very, very traceable because we're controlling all the inputs that go into the process, right? So it is free of antibiotics, it's free of silica, it is free of contaminants. So it's a very clean protein. And we've now been working with partners to formulate or convert this protein into forms that is, that works for both the animal nutrition sector as well as for the human nutrition sector. And, in terms of where this will go for us long term, one of the biggest benefits will be that it is extremely sustainable, right? So it allows for intensification of production. So what do I mean by that is today, if you see, we are working with a growing population and we are talking about how we're going to provide food for this growing population. So existing methods of food production, right, can only go so far. So we really need to intensify our production. So this is what our platform allows. Over, let's say, a 2-acre area, we can manufacture almost 10,000 tons of protein compared to, soy that would require almost 4,000 acres for the same amount of protein. So there are huge benefits in terms of resource use efficiency as well as environmental benefits through our platform itself. And, and fundamentally, there are functional advantages to this protein. So it's a very high quality protein compared to, the existing sources of plant source of protein that we have. Microbial protein or fermented protein, which is emerging as a sector in itself, has advantages in that the native protein levels that you have to work with itself is very high. It's got very high levels of essential amino acids. So you're starting off with a protein that's got very favorable properties, which can then be formulated or texturized for different applications. So that's one of the key product areas that we are working in. And, as we do this, we're also leveraging our platform for the other sectors that I talked about, which is agriculture, personal care, and so on and so forth. So, so very briefly, we've been in India, we've been in the startup ecosystem. My background itself, I've been in the biotech or fermentation industry for more than 15 years, but a big portion of that was in the US. And I moved to India 6 years back to set up String and work through our process here. And, we've been very closely associated with the CCAMP ecosystem. We've really leveraged, various aspects of this ecosystem. Because as you've seen, the work that we're doing is very interdisciplinary, right? We're leveraging biology, we're leveraging fermentation, we're leveraging downstream chemistry. So there's only so much of core expertise that we have in-house. It's very critical for us to also work with the ecosystem around us. And we've been able to do that very efficiently in the Bangalore ecosystem and in particularly with CCAMP. Yeah. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions I can help address.
Thank you, EIZI. So we'll be taking questions towards end of the all presentations. Will that be okay, EIZI? So let all the start. Yeah. So our next speaker is Dr. Jogen. So Dr. Jogen is founder CEO of iStem Research. Over to you, Dr. Jogen.
Thank you, Shubham, and thanks for everybody. Shubham, may I share my screen?
Sure, Dr. Jogen.
Thank you. Just one sec. All right. So I hope everybody can see this. I will take you through the journey of iSTEM real fast. So thank you. My name is Jogin Desai. I before iSTEM, I used to run a joint venture between Quintiles and Thermo Fisher in North Carolina, which was a randomization and supply chain management venture. And before that, I used to head up cardiac safety for Quintiles, and I am a medical doctor by training, not by profession anymore. So let me just go very quickly through what is iSTEM. Why iSTEM? First thing is, if you look at current cell and gene therapy costs for incurable diseases, they are estimated to cost about $250,000 per injection. This is not sustainable. The last therapy that the FDA approved, which is the Luxturna, costs about $450,000 per injection. So our vision is to democratize access to cell therapy and provide benefits to a larger section of humanity. So we've got a lot of hows in the middle, which I will not go through in detail because we have a limited amount of time. But the point is, how do you create a product in India with at a cost price which is significantly lower, yet still at standards which are globally acceptable? And there are two main diseases that we're targeting. One is macular degeneration, and the other is retinitis pigmentosa. And our flagship product will get first in man trials. We're about 12 months away from the trial. And we've got more products in the pipeline. I'll go through those. So here's where this is a highlight. So in less than 3 years, in less than $1 million, we have built up a cell therapy platform, which has a quality and a process-driven approach. For people who are in drug development, you would notice this is not something that is usual. We've got, I think, I was talking to Taslim at CCamp, and I think we calculated that by the time we get our first in-man data, we will have spent under $3 million to get to from conception of the idea to first in-man data. And that's how we want to run this. Our lead product is EIZI RPE for macular degeneration. We have demonstrated excellent animal efficacy and safety. We have collaborated with Oregon Health and Science University because they're the center of excellence for these things. We've got significant grants, and we've rolled out a screening platform for COVID, which I won't go through right now because now there are so many vaccines out. This is one area which is now going to sort of have diminishing interest as we go along. So this is our platform strategy. We have our rapid product iteration strategy. Our platform is based on iPSCs, which are stem cells. For people, I don't know how much everybody knows, but a very quick background: stem cells, you can actually create any cell of the body. And we do a rapid product iteration to make sure whether we can do this scalably, we can do this consistently, whether we can do this predictably. And then once we achieve the efficacy, the POCs, which is in the middle box, in vitro efficacy, we have a patent, we have a publication, we've got an animal POC, then we move it to the right side. And for right now, we have EIZI RPE, which is on the right side, while there are lots of things on the left side, which are undergoing product iterations. This is our product pipeline. We've got, as I said, AMD, where we're looking at human trials in 21, and then the entire platform starts turning up much faster. So within 1 year, every 1 year, our vision is to create a new product for new incurable diseases. What's worthy to note is whatever we are targeting, these things don't have cures anywhere. There is nothing you can take. If you have macular degeneration, the only thing you do is wait for it to blind you finally. So similar for retinitis pigmentosa, similar for pulmonary fibrosis. Pulmonary fibrosis has once you get it, you have a 3-year average lifespan. So it's in some cases even worse than cancer. I won't go through the SES platform, although just a very, very, very quick one that, it's the same. We've created a lung system which expresses the viral spike protein. So we are right now working with University of Purdue to see if they can use this to do drug repurposing and all of that, because the spike protein binds to our lung cells, and that becomes a very predictable marker for reactions for the drugs. So we're working through all that right now. That's happening. These are our partnerships. Again, I come back to the saying that we are a CCamp-based incubated company, but we want global partnerships which are best in class. So we've are partnered with Aura, which is the world's leading ophthalmic research organization. with which we have driven the clinical and regulatory roadmap. We had a pre-IND with the FDA late last year, early this year, and a whole host of partnerships, of course, including OHSU, where our macular degeneration studies are done. Nothing can happen without CCAM. CCAM is a huge, huge reason why we exist, because the ecosystem that it can bring is just absolutely amazing. We also have a phase 1 in manufacturing partnership with LV Prasad, which is the best eye ophthalmology research and treatment institute in the country. And this is where you can see the partnerships that we have are driving are with centers of excellence that can help us bring the competence that a startup would not have. Our leadership team, very quickly, myself, I've already talked about it. Rajni, she's a PhD from Maastricht and a retina surgeon. And we've got Rajeshi, who's probably one of the most efficient in terms of retina cell development, and Dhruv is in Cedars-Sinai. Again, the idea is to bring the global expertise wherever it is available, because these are not things that you can do in silos. Again, just a quick view of our scientific advisory board. Mahendra himself was the founder director of the NIH Stem Cell Center for Regenerative Medicine, and Kapil right now is doing an NIH funded trial on RPE, although he's doing something a little bit different. I'm going to skip over this because we've got pre-series investors from South Africa, Zurich, and actually all old quintiles people who we've been working with for a long time right now. So let me give you a little bit of snapshot on eyesight RPE now. So here's the pictures of the RPE. This is the retinal pigment epithelium, which is, once it goes, it's like the foundation of the building. If you look at the building as the photoreceptors, the retinal pigment epithelium is the foundation. Once the foundation goes, the building collapses, and then the patient is blinded. These can be stored at long periods. The beautiful thing about it is it's very scalable. So each tube can treat 20 patients. So that allows us to create scale, that allows us to reduce costs and so on. So our goal is to reduce costs by about 85% as per our last discussion. And we're fairly on our way to doing that right now. Price, I'm not saying cost, because sometimes these things get confused. The macular degeneration is the leading cause of blindness for people over 50. And about 170 million people suffer from dry AMD. There are two AMDs. One is wet AMD, the other is dry AMD. Wet AMD has some cures, because you can put Lucentis and all these are all intravitreal injections that you can put in, and the market for those drugs is expected to reach 8.9 billion by 2022. Dry AMD has no cure, and its incidence is 9 times that. So when people ask me what's the market size, I would say large, because it's impossible to look at calculate the exact market size while you're among the first.
Doctor,
yeah, go ahead, Shubham.
Saying that you got muted. Yeah.
Shubham, we can't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying that you went muted for some time. That's all. So we lost you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I don't know where you guys lost me. But we've got a validated regulatory roadmap, including publications, pre-INDs. Our roadmap is essentially just the way any startup or company would do, whether it is based in Bangalore or in Boston or in Berlin or in London. It's the exact same roadmap that you would do, right? Sorry, my screen is now frozen, so I'm going to try. Okay. I have last 2 or 3 slides, and this is the excerpt from the pilot animal efficacy study that we did. And these are all excerpts from the OHSU report, where it provided significant efficacious effects. There was no regulatory concerns for safety. It appeared a little bit ahead of Advanced Cell, which is now Astellas, and similar to CellCure, which is in Israel. But as you can see, I won't repeat every single line in the report, but it was very, very encouraging for us, this report. And just to give you a sense of I'm not going to go into this because this becomes too technical for you, but I'll just give you a sense of how it happens in preclinical models. So what we essentially did is there's a rat model for macular degeneration. The rat essentially becomes progressively blind as it grows, and we have a control, and then there is another rat where we actually inject subretinally our eyesight RPE. And we have proven that the rats that were injected with the eyesight RPE were able to reverse their vision loss and were able to see progressively longer. And that's the revolution that we want to bring, because there are 170 million people, no cure, and all the cures that are coming a little bit ahead of us, there are about 1 or 2 companies ahead of us. Those all are going to cost $6-figure term. This is not sustainable. So we want to be the company which is known for scalable, affordable cell therapy. And we start with macular degeneration. Our platform allows us to follow soon with retinitis pigmentosa and pulmonary lung fibrosis, and on from there. So that's our story at iStem. Thank you. And again, happy to take questions whenever you need.
Thank you, Dr. Jogin. So in interest of time, we'll be taking all the questions towards end of this session.
No
right? So our next speaker is Mr. Nitesh from Koyo Labs. So Koyo Labs is, they're working in the domain of emergency and critical care sector. So Nitesh, if you're here, please, you can start with your presentation or your talk.
Hi all, this is Nitesh. I'm co-founder of Koyo Labs, which is a Bangalore-based medical device company. We develop first in the world medical device products in the field of an emergency and critical care. So one of our first product which we have developed, we call it WAP Care, which is an intelligent secretions and oral hygiene management system. So in easy thing, every patient who goes on a ventilator, every patient who goes on a ventilator have 25 to 30% chances that they acquire a secondary infection called ventilator-associated pneumonia. This infection happens because the patients who are on ventilator, they have a tube going inside their airway. This tube gets connected to the ventilator and disables the patient's function of swallowing any saliva or secretion we generate. We generate close to 1.5 to 2 liters of saliva every day. But as a normal human being, all of us swallow it. Patients who are on ventilator, they cannot swallow it. And slowly, all the saliva and secretion start trickling down to the lungs and gets inside the alveoli of the lung and infect them and create this pneumonia. In India alone, we have more than 600,000 patients who acquire this infection. And even in developed world, it's not that this problem does not exist. US, even CDC in US have reported around 150,000 cases of ventilator-associated pneumonia every year. The current process of managing this infection or reducing chances of this infection is where a nurse takes a catheter or tubing inside the patient's mouth and try to suction out all the saliva and secretions. Ideally, it has to be performed 2 to 4 hours. Right now, it is really blind procedures. They don't know, nurses or respiratory therapists or doctors, they don't know how much secretion they are removing, which location is the most amount of secretion. And it all depends upon the skill and availability of caregiver. Ideally, in these kind of cases, there has to be one-to-one nursing care, which is rarely available, not just in India, across the globe. And it also increases risk of cross infection, especially when we are looking at COVID scenario. WHO has declared open suctioning as one of the most dangerous process and responsible for increasing chances of acquiring COVID. So to solve this problem, we had developed a product. We call it WAP Care, which automatically senses and removes the saliva and secretions from oral cavity, oropharyngeal, which is back of our neck, and subglottic area, which is just below our vocal cord, and make sure none of these secretions reaches to the lungs and infect them. This machine also does automatic oral hygiene management by pushing any antibacterial and in COVID antiviral fluid like chlorhexidine inside the patient's mouth. It rinses the whole patient's oral cavity and takes the infected fluid back, and it ensures that there is no harmful bacteria or viruses remains in the oral cavity. So even after doing really good removal of saliva, uh, even a drop or micro drop of secretion goes down, it should not have all those harmful bacteria and viruses in it. Yeah. So this product is already in market from last 1 year. We have patents for this technology granted across the globe. It is US, Europe, China, Japan. This product is already US approved, and just now we have got the European regulatory approval done for this product, and it's running in multiple hospitals across India, and already it has been used on more than 200 patients, and we are scaling up our sales and marketing capabilities to take it to more and more hospitals and ensure that every patient who goes on ventilator have this device on them. So this was our product where we identified a need which is not just something very much prevalent in India, but all across the globe, including developed country. But during the same time, so this company started by me and my partner spending almost around 3 months in a hospital's emergency room and observing and understanding what are the most unmet clinical needs hospitals have. So one of those needs was to prevent ventilator-associated pneumonia. Other need where we saw that a lot of premature babies which are not born in a big center where we were, where neonatal ICU is there. So these babies are born in small centers where immediate access to respiratory support was not available. And these babies had needed to get traveled to big centers where NICUs are there, where breathing support equipments and even the trained people are there who can use those machines. Till the time these babies reaching to the hospitals, either they don't survive this whole transport time, or they survive it with severe brain injury. And when we saw this problem, we being an engineer and technology, it was such an sad thing to observe that there is a simple technology well established benefit is available, but designed for high resource setting, which cannot be used in all these low resource area, because the existing solutions, the existing solution required a lot of supporting infrastructure. So it's not just a machine alone, but it's the supporting infrastructure required that was not available in all the settings. So whether it is compressed gas, compressed oxygen, continuous supply of electricity, train people not to just use the machine, but also to maintain machine for long-term uses. Most of these existing devices had their own customized disposable, which was not just increasing the cost of treatment, but also making the availability of this treatment very, very limited. To solve this problem, we developed this device. We call it SAS, which is a Hindi word for breathing. It's a world's only neonatal breathing support or CPAP equipment, which can work without electricity, which can work in any setting. I'm talking about in hospital, in an ICU, in a ward, in a labor room, in transport. And for us, transport means anything. I'm talking about a bike to a sophisticated ambulance. And this device can also do air oxygen blending and can support with humidification. So it provides the gold standard breathing support to these babies at anywhere, anyhow, and by anyone. So that's our idea. This product is already has already saved more than 1,000 babies in India alone, and we started shipping devices not just in India. Now we started shipping devices in Europe also. Not Europe, sorry, Africa. Yeah. So third innovation where means CCAM has always been one of our hand-holding partner into this, but our third innovation is where we really work closely with CCAM. The third innovation we have made is by looking at the COVID scenario. We were working really closely with critical care physicians, and all of them told us one thing, is that ventilators, everybody was talking about ventilators, but all doctors said ventilators are what we don't need. They're saying if patient is going on a ventilator, they are seeing 80 to 90% mortality rate on that. Idea was to provide enough oxygenation to the patients before they go on an invasive ventilation, so then they actually don't get they don't need to get intubation or delay the intubation, so then their treatment can start it. You reduce the viral load, and then patient can shift it out from the ICU. To solve this problem, we upgraded our neonatal CPAP to an adult CPAP and high flow treatment machine. Right now, I'm happy to tell you that we have now more than 200 installations of this machine across India. This machine has already helped more than 1,000 patients receiving breathing support, and almost every day we are receiving new and new orders for this machine. This is very unique machine because right now in current solution you have to buy a separate CPAP machine or a separate high flow machine to provide breathing support to these patients. But we have combined both into a single machine, and this machine does not require external compressed gas, but still it can do the air oxygen blending. So it's very well designed for Indian setting. One interesting thing what our learning is that, where we all talk about artificial intelligence, deep tech, the topmost technology, but when we were actually in the market, in the field with this kind of machine, we saw more people were using these machines because all other machines require constant maintenance, have other issue. They all assume that really trained people are using them. But in scenario like COVID, especially in tier 2 centers, most of I've seen even uh, not even just nurses or doctors, just pharmacy guys are working in ICU. So they have no idea. So sophisticated machines were not working there. So a machine like this, which is very much simple to use, have more mechanical parts, does not have a lot of sensors, lot of alarm, just simple machine which does what it's supposed to do. So this was one learning we had, that initially there were people were asking us for all those fancy features, but when they started using our machine or other competition machines started failing because of XYZ reasons. But then our machine was still running continuously, and now we are receiving more response from the same hospitals. They are buying more and more of our devices. Yeah, I think I'll stop here. I'm happy to take any question in the end.
Thank you, Nitish. So we'll be taking questions towards the end of the session. So next speaker is Dr. Shri Kumar. So he is a managing director of C6 Energy. So C6 Energy developing a sustainable large-scale mechanized ocean farming solutions. So over to you, Dr. Shri Kumar.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. So I'll try and keep this very brief. And basically, if you look at the sunlight that is falling on the earth, and this is a very typical map. There are two takeaways that you can get from here. One is that there is a lot more sunlight that falls on the sea than it does on the land. That's because 70% of our earth is oceans. And the second one is most of the sunlight is falling in the tropical regions, where the red color is seen on this map, and the seas are really warm. So agriculture is a good way of picking up a renewable energy like sunlight. And so the idea that agriculture on the sea could be done is not that far-fetched. Now, it turns out that there are many plants that grow very well in the seas. Seaweeds are a prime example. And in the tropics, there are these kind of seaweeds, for example, where they're cultivated quite a lot, and they are very rapidly growing, and the yield of these plants is far more than many agricultural land plants. So many hundreds of tons of dry biomass per year per hectare. So it seems that, and if you go into scientific literature, many of these sea plants have been grown successfully throughout the world. I mean, the red dots are indicative of where in different parts of the world these sea plants have been grown. Now, the only trouble, then you can think of this unique biomass and say, hey, can we make biofuel out of this? Because, you know, if you're looking at sustainability, one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas is our fossil fuels. And can you make biofuel out of this? And it turns out that, yes, indeed, you can take this very interesting biomass and you can subject it to a process called hydrothermal liquefaction. And as a result, you can actually make crude oil. And you can imagine that if you can take that crude oil and put it into a refinery, you can make renewable petrol and diesel. Now, this sounds really fascinating. It's actually true that you can do this. You can also convert this biomass, as we have shown on the slide, into biodegradable plastic. So you can make sheets, pouches, straws, you name it. So the natural question that we get asked is, okay, that's great, but how far away from reality is all of this? Now, you can take the sea plant biomass and you can make actually products for all of these different industries, whether it's agriculture, biofuels, food, organic chemicals, just as we showed you. But right now, the sea plant biomass is very expensive. So, you know, if you look at the price at which it's cultivated, you know, it's only a few applications are possible, say specialty food ingredients. But in order for all of these other applications to become viable, you know, the price of the sea plant needs to come down and the volume of production needs to go up. So it's important to understand actually why sea plant production is so expensive. And the reason it's expensive is not because it's expensive to grow, but only because of the labor. Now, this is the way typically sea plants are grown. This is a picture on Zanzibar. You can see that the women are in the sea. The boat is full of seaweed, and these wooden poles that you see there are actually tied on the sea, and you know, and the seaweed is growing between that. But you know, everything that you need for this agriculture is free. The air, the nutrients are free. The water is free. It's only labor that's involved. Here is a picture of the coast of Indonesia. Again, you can see large fields, but people are working, walking, and the productivity in the water is very low. You know, it's so there's no doubt whatsoever that sea plant cultivation is labor intensive. So as a company, we said, hey, if the only cost in sea plant cultivation is labor, if we could improve the productivity, could we bring down the cost of the sea plant? And it turns out that we can do it. So this is really what one of the innovations that our company pioneered. We looked at all the labor intensive steps in sea plant cultivation, and we came up with a sea tractor, which has got some patented machinery. It's called the Sea Combine. And it's actually working on the coast of Indonesia. And we've looked at several aspects of the sea plant cultivation, and we automated it. So this is actually a picture of the Sea Combine in the sea. It's the first prototype. And here is a picture of the large seaweed fields that you know, a company has actually put up in Indonesia. So you can see these ladder-like structures. So it's really possible to do cultivation on a very large scale. So people ask us, hey, so how far away are we from reality? Well, if this was the current cost of manual cultivation, we can already bring down the cost to this point by next year. And by 2025, we expect that with the Sea Combine, we can actually bring down the cost of seaweed cultivation all the way to the point where biofuels will even become viable. But along the way, all the way down the curve, there are so many business areas that we can actually open up. For example, one of the business areas that we are really focusing on is agriculture and feed ingredients. And we are already doing a large part of this. For example, here is a products that we have already commercialized from the seaweed. So there are products for agriculture, there are products for animal feed, and in the works, of course, as I showed you before, there are biofuels and bioplastics. To give you some idea of what the agriculture product does, it's been trialed in many countries around the world. And what it does is actually increase the yield of crops. So this is a seaweed derived product, 100% organic, and on various crops, you can get for the same amount of inputs, you can get anywhere between 10 to more than 15%, sometimes even as high as 40% yield increases. So this is all really possible. And if you look at the markets, without counting the biofuel, without counting the bioplastics, just the agriculture market, the biostimulants, the biodefense, the food ingredients, the animal health, it's already a $10 billion market that can be addressed. So there's really a lot of things that can be done with the seaweed as an alternative bioeconomy on the way to actually creating a lot of renewable products, resources. So that's really what I wanted to share briefly about. Happy to take questions as usual.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. So we are running short on time, so we'll be taking few questions towards the end of this session. So our next speaker is Dr. Akshay Singhal. He's a founder CEO of Log9 Materials. They are working on graphene and its various applications in several domains. So over to you, Akshay. And
thanks, Shubham.
Yeah, Akshay, one request. Because we are running short of time, so maybe if you can.
Yeah, I'll keep it short.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thanks. So thanks a lot for this opportunity. So basically, Log9 Materials, as Shubham mentioned, is a nanotechnology company, and we have been leveraging our expertise in graphene as a material to develop applications in the filtration and clean energy space, and now completely focus more towards energy storage and clean energy. I'll talk about briefly about our innovations in the filtration space, and also something which we were able to develop to contribute towards the ongoing pandemic with regards to our UV disinfection product portfolio. So overall, these are the three major products that we have been working on, and some of them are already launched in the market. First of all, the first product to come out in the market was Sorbene, which is a graphene-based spill absorbent product line, which basically enables us to clean up any kind of oil spills, whether it's in the seas or oceans or in the industry. And if some of you might have heard of a recent spill that happened in Mauritius, wherein oil by an Indian company, IOCL, was spilled, and our sorbene pads were airlifted on an urgent basis from our factory in Mumbai, and it was used to clean up that oil spill in Mauritius. So this was the first product that we launched. Then we have been working for the last 2 years on our technology on aluminum fuel cells, which is a concept to basically use aluminum as a solid fuel, and the oxidation of aluminum in our system basically generates energy, and that energy can in turn be used to run an electric vehicle. This technology is under development and is as per our perspective, the only technology which can make long haul heavy trucks and buses viable for electrification. So EVs, long haul EVs, electric vehicles based platforms such as LCVs, HCVs and buses can become viable with this kind of a technology. And then just while the pandemic was unfolding, we were able to gather our resources and launched a whole series of products with the brand name Corona Oven, which was a UV disinfection product line of Log9. And it saw tremendous adoption across the country and even internationally in South Africa, Nepal, and France and UK and other countries as well. And we've been able to ship more than 10,000 units of this product across the country and outside India as well. So this is what we do. As a company, we have filed for 23 patents, out of which 10 patents are at a PCT application stage, and one of them has already been granted to us. So talking about our focus on clean energy and energy storage. So we essentially are providing alternative battery solutions for advanced electric vehicles. And the reason we feel that lithium ion is not the I would say ultimate solution for all kind of EVs, because different EV platforms ranging from two-wheelers to all the way from heavier transport have different requirements. So for example, talking about two-wheelers and three-wheelers, they don't have that big of a challenge in terms of range of the electric vehicle, but the challenge is more on the charging time, the life of the battery, the speed of the current electric vehicles and stuff like that. Whereas on the heavier side, range is a big problem and the battery weight is a big problem. So what we are doing is that on the two-wheeler and three-wheeler side, our technology, again, graphene-based supercapacitor technology is coming in handy. And by using that, we have been able to create these rapid charging two-wheelers, which we are starting the pilots of in the next 2 months. And this vehicles can offer you a range of 40 plus 25 kilometers, which means that 40 kilometers is a fast charging range, and it can be charged in less than 15 minutes time. Which is which is far superior than the current trend in the market of at least 90 minutes. So the current electric two-wheelers can be charged in as low as 90 minutes. We offer this charging time at 10 to 15 minutes time. And another important aspect of this technology is that the battery life is 15 to 20 years as compared to 3 years in the current scenario. So this is what we have been able to put together, and these vehicles are going into a pilot very soon. Also coming to the, as I was mentioning, on the heavier transport size, so we are focusing on aluminum fuel cell. We have a video on YouTube which explains about how aluminum economy works and how aluminum can be used as a fuel. So in the interest of time, I'll recommend you to go and watch that video. And this is how the entire system is completely recyclable, because in aluminum, using aluminum as a fuel, there's nothing which is wasted. So aluminum is put inside the vehicle in our aluminum fuel cell. It gets oxidized to generate energy, and then the oxidized aluminum can again be converted back into aluminum metal using renewable energy. That's what we do. So this is the kind of work that we have been doing at Log9, and particularly now focused completely towards alternative energy storage technologies. So yeah, that's those are the founders. So apart from me, we have Karthik and Pankaj. We are all from different IITs, Roorkee and Delhi. And yeah,
countless ideas have turned into dreams, and then
so yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Akshay. So, Lina, can we take some questions? It's up to you, Zully.
Yeah, so actually, Shubham and C-Camp, I just wanted to request if we could now move the questions to the end, because we're running out of time. And in the interest of, T-Hub's already joined now to kind of take over their session. But before we move on to T-Hub, I wanted to thank all the startups. I think they were like excellent presentations. Akshay, really good, show of, the level of innovation that you have entered into, and in fact, all of the other startups as well. And so congratulations. This was a very, very interesting session, kind of, sharing your experiences as startups working with C-Camp. But yeah, let's move on to the rest of the program. We have another good 1.5 hours. It's a roadshow, and it's not meant to finish fast, because the idea is to give the European startups and innovation actors a very good sense of the Indian innovation ecosystem, really more depth than trying to run through at a very high level. So this program has been planned to be more deep and share a concrete interactions with mentors, investors, startups, really what makes the Indian innovation ecosystem tick. So thank you so much, Team C-Camp. Please, be on standby for the Q&A session, and we will invite you back in some time. So yeah, now I can see, brightly there, video cameras on, Ashutosh Kumar from Team T-Hub. So as you all know, we have 2 European innovation zones in India. One, presented to you by C-Camp, and the second one now at T-Hub in Hyderabad. Again, thank you to the T-Hub team for working closely with the Europe-India Innovation Partnership to set up this zone here. And, I'd like to introduce all of you to Ashutosh from the T-Hub team, who's worked very closely with us to make this a possibility. And also, take a good look at him. He's your new point of contact in Hyderabad, to really foray into the Indian market. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any question and you're kind of thinking about coming to India, you can reach out to Ashutosh. His point of contact is available on the startupeuropeindia.net website. Also, I think during the session, he will share his coordinates with you on the chat, so you could reach out to him as well. So Ashutosh, welcome. I want to hand over, the session to you, so you could invite your speakers and, introduce yourself and your organization, and, invite them into India through your talks. Over to you, Ashutosh.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. This is a lovely afternoon here in India. I guess this must be possibly, despite COVID, it's great to digitally meet a lot of you guys out there in Europe. We look forward to working with you in your journey in India. I would like to introduce our organization. Possibly some of you would have already been here. And for those of you who haven't, T-Hub enables and empowers an ecosystem hungry for innovation. It's based in the second Silicon Valley city of India, that's Hyderabad, and it leads India's pioneering innovation ecosystem that powers next generation products, new business models. It's uniquely positioned because it uses the triple helix model of innovation based on interaction and collaboration between the industry, the academia, and the government agencies. It was incorporated in 2015, and so far it has accelerated around 1,100 national and international startups and provided them access to better technology, talent, mentors, customers, corporates, investors, and government agencies. T-Hub also provides thought leadership for government organizations across the globe to build innovation ecosystems and entrepreneurship programs. It has elevated innovation for leading national and global corporates, transforming enterprise models for the better. With the launch of T-Hub Phase 2 in 2020, it positions us as the world's biggest innovation campus, hosting over the space of 4,000 innovators with dedicated spaces for corporate innovation labs, accelerators, various centers of excellence. T-Hub, with its unique impact-oriented innovation ecosystem, is an ideal place for product analysis, testing, and launch. It's an inviting and an accessible gateway for startups to thrive and experience next-generation technology. I'd like to possibly show you a small video that is not as boring as my introduction here. So I'm going to share my screen. I request, I guess, yeah, I can do this.
Countless ideas have turned into dreams and then into reality with India's fastest growing startup engine. It all began 4 years ago when Shri K.T. Rama Rao, the Honorable IT Minister of the newly formed state of Telangana, had a vision of transforming Hyderabad from a bustling metropolis into a truly global city full of innovative companies and young talent.
This is, in fact, the first look at the new India tomorrow. And this can be the starting point of that new way. So it's a great privilege to be here today.
I am here to be mostly inspired by your dreams, your ambitions, and what I think you're going to do going forward in terms of changing the world because of what you do here at T-Hub and beyond.
Just be in Hyderabad. This is where you'll do all the great engineering. This is where you'll do great frugal engineering. India and Hyderabad has the great capacity to combine innovativeness great enterprise and skills all together. India's moved to being a great place for business and a great place to innovate. India has caught the imagination of your people, and how together between the US and India we can do things that neither country or business groups can do by themselves.
Entrepreneurship, in fact, is something that we definitely cherish, that we definitely promote in a big way. A standing testimony to that is what, where we are located right now. This is India's largest startup engine. This is India's largest technology incubator called the T-Hub.
T-Hub's network ranges from Canada, Australia, the UK, Finland, Israel, France, and Singapore, and it continues to expand.
One of the big ways that we see the startups really maturing and really taking on larger problems is when they are able to understand how the ecosystems across the world is built. And this is a great exposure for a lot of the entrepreneurs themselves as individuals to see how other entrepreneurs in other ecosystems are actually going about building their startups.
I'd now like to introduce the person who is responsible for the world's largest innovation engine here in Hyderabad, Mr. Rama Iyer, the Chief Innovation Officer of T-Hub.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay? Okay, I presume so. I see Lena waving her hand. So Lena, good to see you. It's been a while.
Great to see you. Sorry, I was muted. Great to see you, Rama, after a long
Same
time.
here. Like, you should be coming here at some point. It's been a while. So thanks for having us here. Thanks for this opportunity. I think the video obviously kind of, touches upon multiple things and who we are. Today, we are the country's largest startup ecosystem, and we are on route to becoming one of the world's largest in this part of the world. And obviously, we believe in the ecosystem play. We believe in partnership. We believe in alliances. Anything to help move the needle on startups, anything to add value to corporates, working with governments. We're all for partnership and relationship. So anything you guys see that there is a value you want, anything in India, a partner to work with of any sort, we are extremely warm and we are extremely flexible. Happy to kind of be here on this forum, and we work with Lena and GBI. I would not say a lot, but obviously in the past, and we want to do more of that. I think there is a deck I'll just kind of show. Just kind of one slide that I want to leave you all with. This is the entire stretch on the startup side on corporate innovation and ecosystem. These are the three main areas or three stakeholders that we work with. Everything that we do, programs and things are centered around what is the value that we bring to the table, either has seen through a startup lens or for a corporate or for the ecosystem, which is all the international partners, the international programs that we do. Today, we work with many government departments, global innovation heads. We work with various countries to do a lot of co-innovation between government-to-government relations. We work with a lot of central government departments in India to further the cause of innovation. And this all started when our Prime Minister visited Israel and we started Indo-Israel collaboration a while back. So I think we kind of built on that, and today we are well recognized as a player that is moving the needle on this space. And obviously we learn from a lot of people, from a lot of you out there, and we try to kind of see as much as we can do together rather than reinventing the wheel. So we try to do a little bit of what we preach to the startups, and we are more proud of our startups who are our brand ambassadors, like Pranay is there, who is doing a phenomenal job on the health tech side. So I think our real value are the startups that really go on and succeed in many ways. We can push to the next slide. Oh, I see Anish is also there. So good, Anish, you turned on. I mean, he's another star of ours, MyGate, who's doing a good work. These are some of the sector focus. If we can just push on this, I think this is something that many of us know. Um, keep going. These are a little bit of numbers. This should at least kind of give a glimpse of the size and quantum that we operate on, whether it is number of countries, number of companies, number of startup programs, the funding that we have helped enable and made the connects. So I think the numbers speak for themselves, and obviously we want to kind of increase the numbers, but I think it is as much as about the quality and impact as much it is about the quantum, right, in many ways. So I think we obviously don't lose sight that quality and impact is obviously paramount other than the quantum as well. Let's get to the next one. Yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit of what we do on the corporate side. We work with literally like, a few hundred corporates today, and we do a bunch of things, whether it is innovation challenges, whether it is accelerators, whether they just want to be part of our space, whether they want to set up co-innovation labs. We continue to experiment a lot of different models, and some ideas come from our corporates, some comes from us, and we are happy to fail. I think we have failed enough in our past in terms of trying, and I think that is what has kept us grounded in terms of like, things that we should try. And I think for all the startups out there, I mean, we actually try a lot, similar to you, and we pivot a lot. And this is where we have got to this much distance in record 5 years. We are obviously the one of the ecosystem which is the youngest, but today probably one of the largest anywhere in the world in terms of quality, quantity, in terms of impact, in terms of what we have brought to the table for India and putting ourselves on the map. Next. This is a little bit of what we do globally with various countries, various trade agencies, various development agencies, various innovation outpost ecosystems. We want to ensure that we are like a hub and spoke model where we kind of present ourselves as the connector for this part of the world. And we want to build on this various countries that we have listed out there whom we do programs with. We want to increase the list and especially like increase our focus on Europe. We have been doing things with GBI as a partner, but I think there is a lot more things that India Europe bridge can do. And I think we have still not done justice to what both this places bring together in terms of the diaspora, the space, the value, the innovation, and everything else. So I would love to see us kind of really changing the size of the pipe that exists between India, US, and actually embark on India, EU as a much larger pipe of innovation and business that we push together. Next. This is, like in few months' time, we will be embarking on this place, which is our brand new campus. At this point, we should be the world's largest innovation ecosystem in terms of the space, in terms of the size, in terms of things that we would end up doing with respect to co-innovation labs, futuristic technologies, things that we will do on a PPP model, things that we have not tried. And I think we will not succeed in everything. We are definitely going to fail and we are happy about it, but we will try for sure. And I think that trying is something that we are learning from our startups as they continue to kind of push on the envelope of innovation. And I think we want to do the same. So I think that's something that I want you all to kind of, take in terms of message that think of TIAB as a strategic partner for the long haul, where we want to build a lot of relations, where we want to build on the value between what India and Europe can bring to the table, and obviously keeping startups at the center of all the things that we do. So thanks, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the event, and thanks for having us. Thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Now it's time to talk about the regulatory and policy benefits that possibly you will get in India. So India, since it has a federal structure, there are a lot of benefits that you get from the central government and a lot of benefits that the state government has to offer. I'll be running a small slide to explain the benefits a little better. Just a second. I'm trying to project my screen.
26.
Is it? Yeah, I guess it's visible now. So in India, startups are defined if from the date of incorporation, they're no older than 7 years. It could be a private limited company or a LLP or a partnership firm in terms of how you incorporate your company here. And the turnover must not exceed Indian rupees 100 crores. And it must be working on something that's innovative. And that's not a very, I would say it's a very subjective definition. Many of the startups are actually doing a lot of innovative stuff out there. This is now the recognition procedure to be recognized as a startup in India to be eligible for these benefits is that you apply online. It's a paperless process. You upload your details, and it takes not more than 2 or 3 days to be evaluated and to be granted a registration ID that makes you eligible for a lot of subsidies, a lot of other benefits through the central government that we'll be talking about. So the startups are mostly exempted from the tough norms and regulation that are there for government procurement. In fact, a lot of government departments, they have a mandate that they must be procuring minimum 30% of all their products and services from registered startups and SMEs in India. Fast track examination of your patents. If you already have a patent in Europe, it will be much more easier for you. Even in case you don't have a patent in Europe, possibly you can apply for a patent in India. And much of the patent fees and the legal attorney fees, whatever you have with respect to IP protection, will be borne by the government here. Income tax exemption for if you're eligible, income tax exemption for 3 years out of the 10 years of your existence from the date of your incorporation. And a self-certification process for a lot of other compliances, including labor, environment, and so many other compliances which could be a little tricky for you. There will be no physical inspection, and you could self-certify and say that you are in accordance with most of these norms, and that would be sufficient. So in terms of, again, procurement by government agencies, it makes it much more easier for you to sell to government, which is a very big consumer of products and services itself, since it's a big country. There is a relaxation on the turnover criteria, minimum experience criteria. There is no earnest money deposit condition for startups. And all government departments, and in India, we have a lot of PSU in key strategic areas. The public sector undertakings, they have a internal guidance to give a preferential treatment to startups while looking at procurement of products and services. DPIIT recognized startups can directly register on a government e-marketplace, and they can see what the government intends to buy, and they could possibly showcase their products and services and bid for such contracts. It's seamless, it's very transparent, and this is something that possibly India has improved a lot in the last 5 to 10 years, and that is the reason why there is a quantum jump in the ease of doing business here. Patent and trademark, intellectual property is of prime importance in India, unlike some of our neighbors where you will have a lot of trouble protecting your intellectual property. In India, it will not only be protected because the legal structure, a lot of the laws in India are very similar to European and British laws. And so there's a lot of synergy that way. You are also eligible for 80% rebate in patent filing fees, 50% rebate in trademark filing fees. And there are impaneled facilitators which you can use, and the government can reimburse the facilitators' cost. So a lot of these assistance is available from the regulator side. A dedicated facilitation support helpline to handhold startups. There's a helpline number, there's an email ID. You can just tweet for support, whatever you need. You can ask for it, and the right teams will ensure that the services are delivered to you, and your journey here is very smooth, and you can focus on the key aspects of your business. Easier compliance, inspections against 6 labor and 3 environmental laws are relaxed for startups. Like I said, you can self-certify yourself against these laws, and it makes the compliance very easy. The Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board has been constituted for fast-track exit. Earlier, it took almost 4 years to wind up a company in India. Setting up was never difficult, but winding up was difficult. Now, instead of 4 years, in case, God forbid, but if you want to shut down, through this channel, you can finish shutting down your company in less than 90 days and wind up and go back if that's the case that's possibly required. Now, for tax exemption, there is an interministerial board startups can apply to avail exemption under Section 56 and Section 80 of Income Tax Act, and there's an interministerial board which has nominees from DPIIT, Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, Securities and Exchange Board of India, the Reserve Bank of India, and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And they will evaluate you based on your innovation and uniqueness, share capital details, merchant banker report, details of issue of shares and investor details. And if they think you are worthy of being exempted, possibly, you will get freedom from all kinds of income tax for 3 years in existence from 10 years from the date of incorporation. And the best part is that you can choose which 3 years to be exempted. So you can choose the first 3 years in existence as the exemption period. You can choose the middle 3 periods, possibly the 5th, 6th, 7th, or possibly the 8th, 9th, 10th year. I mean, so that is left to your choice, which are the years where you would want exemption from taxes in case you're doing some really innovative and unique work. Now, a lot of states in India also have startup specific policies. And Telangana has, where we are based, has special incentive. We have a special drone policy. We have a special data center policy, IoT policy, image policy, that's innovation in multimedia, animation, gaming, and entertainment. We have an innovation policy to support innovation. In the interest of time, it's not possible to discuss about a lot of these benefits under separate policies that our state has to offer. But in case you have any queries, we'll be happy to take and answer. I would now like to give the mic back to my colleague Priyanka. Hello. I guess our investment director is here. Hello, Vinuta. So we have next our director of investments, ecosystem office at THAB. She has been responsible for connecting the bright young stars with money, vitamin M as we call it. Over to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. I hope you're pulling up a presentation for me. In the meantime, I'll just do a brief introduction. Welcome to one and all. It's a pleasure to connect with all of you virtually. So I take care of investments at THAB, while Ashutosh has given us a very nice brief of what's happening at the center at the India level. I'll probably take a minute or two to talk about what we at the state are also trying to do during my presentation. as a state, we are the youngest state. We have about 35 million population here in Telangana. We are the largest with respect, we are the second largest state with respect to IT exports. And we have been growing steadily over the last few years. And we are doing probably 2.5 to 3x over the growth rate of the state, which speaks a lot about the kind of talent that the state attracts, which in turn contributes to the kind of companies that are built out of this particular ecosystem in Telangana. Ashutosh, I don't see the presentation yet. Yeah. Perfect. So broadly, the ecosystem here has been around, at least strongly, has been building up for the last 10 years. We have more than 40 incubators and accelerators that have built up over this period of time. Of course, T-Hub, along with its other innovation partners, including WeHub, TSIC, Rich, Emerging Technologies, we all work closely with our startups to help them get the kind of support that they need to grow from a very seed stage to an early stage, and then from there to growth. So we have currently in India, we have about 103,000 startups, out of which there are about 40,000 startups which are DPIIT registered and which can avail all of the benefits that Ashutosh just spoke about. And we have again, this is across India, we have since 2014 to date, we've raised about $88 billion of funding for our startups here. Currently, we have 35 unicorns operating out of India, a lot of unicorns, and hundreds of minicons that are popping up in even Telangana has about 92 minicons that are being supported, and we look forward to them graduating to a unicorn in the next few years. Again, the major action has been happening in Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi, but there has been a shift over the last few years where it was taking up 80% of the country's funding in 2014. But by the time we reach 2019, that percentage has come down to 60%. That shows that more and more startups are now either moving to smaller cities, or a lot of entrepreneurship has been picked up even at the local or rather at every state level. That could also be because there's a lot of incentives and a lot of opportunities being extended by various states. So definitely Startup India is something that we're all heading towards. So this is a basic high level overview of the funding in the country. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, when we talk about Hyderabad ecosystem, we have 5,000 plus startups across multiple domains. But if we to talk about the technology startups, we have about 2,800 plus today, and about 2,000 of them are DPIIT registered, 2 unicorns, 10 unicorns, and 94 minicons as we speak. And then we have about 40 incubators and 25 plus enablers in the form of, there's a lot of distraction. Yeah, thank you. And again, this is a hotbed for co-working spaces. So we have the WeWorks of the world, we have Office, we have pretty much all the big names setting up here, because there is a lot of action that happens even outside of the incubators that are part of the ecosystem. Again, with respect to the funding, we have in Telangana raised 270 startups have raised around 580 rounds, totaling to about $3.9 billion. And in 2020 so far, we have raised about 1.9 billion. Again, this is 1.19 billion. This is about a couple of weeks old. So probably this figure would be now 1.3 billion. Then there are about 14 plus SEBI registered funds. We have Hyderabad Angels and Indian Angel Networks, which are the 2 angel networks which are very active in the local ecosystem. Again, being an entrepreneurial state where a lot of big businesses have been built, we have a lot of active angels who have been supporting young entrepreneurs with young technology companies, specifically with angel money. We, of course, are doing more and more to bring more angel investors into the system so that the early funding is taken care of. Next slide. So here we're just giving a comparison as to how various geographies have taken up. If you see, of course, Bombay, Bangalore, and Delhi are in the lead, and they have been growing at a 2x, 3x kind of a rate. While Telangana does have still a small piece of funding, but it has grown 5x, and we intend to keep that momentum going in the near future too. Again, the subsectors that maximum investors have looked at, given that we have a natural strength with access to various healthcare as well as pharma industries in Telangana. We have health tech as a leading theme, and we have logistics, HR tech, education, marketing, and fashion tech, where investors have put in a good amount of money. A lot of factors here are contributing to where we need to go next, where we see that the vision for Telangana as a state, as an investment capital, it's going to be, we are at an inflection point, and the spring is going to happen over the next 5 years. Again, these are a few of the funds that have actively been investing into the Indian, specifically into the Telangana ecosystem. Next slide. This is the funding that we have received. The Telangana state startups have received again from 2014 onwards. There are about 270 startups that have received this funding over this period. Coming to, we can move to the next slide, Priyanka. So at T-Hub, what we essentially do is at Ecosystem Office, we have been working with investors over the last few years, but more actively for the last couple of years. And we work closely with more than 50 plus investors, out of which 38 venture capitalists are onboarded, and about 9 to 10 angel networks are actively working with us. What I mean by this is that we understand their investment thesis in detail, and we find out within our various programs what are the suitable startups that can avail of this interest that comes from the investors. So we make those connects happen. So over the last year, we have done about 430 plus investor connects. These are qualified connects where the investor and the investee both are interested to talk to one another. And we have, apart from the people, apart from the investors that are onboarded, we have at least another 60 investors that we work with in the sense that if we find a deal that is suitable, we reach out to them and make that connect happen. So we see ourselves as an enabler that makes that connect happen, and not leave it right there, but actually handhold some of these startups that we really believe in to raise that money and to be there with them through the journey of fundraising. So that's the high of what I wanted to cover on the investment side. Just to give a little bit more brief on the Telangana innovation policy that Ashutosh briefly touched upon. We have one of the first policies to release was the innovation policy by the state of Telangana. And there are a lot of incentives that are available for startups. One is, of course, the existing strong ecosystem, whether that is the government supported ecosystem, which comprises of the innovation partners, or the private ecosystem that already exists, which is a combination of the research facilities that we can very proudly talk about, as well as the kind of colleges that we have here. And definitely the industry itself is strong, which will give a big boost while recruiting for a startup. So all of these factors contribute to build a really strong ecosystem. And that's where the incentives are an additional support to startups. These are, again, some of them Ashutosh has covered, but we also have similar incentives like the Startup India is extending. There is a performance related grant. There is an SGST reimbursement, which is a local taxation reimbursement. There is patent reimbursement expenses that they can reimburse incurred for patents, as well as a couple of other policies that they can avail on a time-bound manner. So this is where we are with the ecosystem, and we see the next 5 to 10 years to be Telangana's years with respect to how the ecosystem will grow here. So thank you all. And if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or leave it in the chat box.
Thank you, Vinuta. I would like to play a message from Mr. Ratnakar Samvidam, Director of Hyderabad Angels. He could not join us for this session, but he has tried to cover his experience of working with startups at T-Hub and with the T-Hub team.
Hi, Hyderabad has been a hotspot for startups in the last 1 year. It has been the third largest startup ecosystem after Delhi and Bangalore, which is a very, very good news. I am part of this ecosystem for more than 4 decades, born and brought up in Hyderabad, and seen this ecosystem to grow. Hyderabad Angels has started in 2011 with an objective to provide capital and value beyond capital. It has been started by marquee entrepreneurs like V.V. Mohan Reddy, Srini Raju, Srini Koplu, Suresh Babu, Pradeep Mittal, Salman Babu Khan, etc., etc. You name all the marquee investors of Hyderabad has been part of this journey with us for over a decade. That is about how closely we work with each other. We invested in 43 startups. You can understand over a decade of time, Hyderabad agents invested only in 43, that is average of 4. The reason is value beyond capital is what we believe, how we nurture the startup very closely, take it to the next level, step by step. That's why we have more than 20 plus startups which have been clearly stars. And in this process, we have been getting help from incubator come accelerator like T-Hub or IIT Hyderabad, IIIT Hyderabad, ECRISAT, Hyderabad Central University. Many of them are been part helping the startups to grow. I personally see T-Hub has been very close to us because a lot of government initiatives and their encouragement to start. We look forward to work with T-Hub very closely under the current inflection point at the Hyderabad ecosystem to empower and enable our startups for the global success. Thank you all.
Thank you. And in fact, to add magic to a lot of these stories, the chefs or the program managers are the most critical link. And I would like to introduce Abhinav Gupta, program manager at T-Hub, to share his thoughts on the Indian startup ecosystem and possibly his insights. And over to you, Abhinav.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Ashutosh, can you project the presentation from my side?
Sure.
Thank you. A warm welcome to everyone from T-Hub. So for the next 5 minutes, I'll take your time to introduce you to the Indian startup ecosystem on a very high level. So a lot of the data I'll be projecting it to you on infographics will be from the last year, and I'll be indicating you wherever there is a trend change or there's an inference change because of COVID. So with that, Ashutosh, once you start projecting it, I'll start my presentation.
Sure, you can start. I'm sharing.
Even though my name is coming as Harshit Joshi, I'm Abhinav Gupta. Thank you. Thank you. We can go to next slide, Ashutosh. Yeah. So one interesting part of Indian startup ecosystem is it is one of the best thriving startup ecosystem, and globally it is considered to be third best. And what we have seen is the year 2019 have seen 1,300 new startups added to the whole bouquet of startups. And when I say startups here, all of them are working in tech space, and they're working on an innovative model of product or a service, and they all have potential to scale up many times than the present situation. So that's the definition of startup which I'm coming up, and in that category we have 1,300 new startups which have added, and you can see the whole population of the startup, or you can say has grown more than 9,300, and by 2020 my estimates are there are more than 10,000 startups in this space who are working in tech. So with this kind of a growth in my next slide, you can see Ashutosh, can you change the next slide? Yeah, you can see how the investment patterns are also changing, right? Even so, there is a complete surge in 2016, and there has been a small these are because number of unique investors who have participated. So there are concentrated number of investors who have participated in different rounds. But if you see the amount of investment which has gone into the whole startup ecosystem, it is much higher. That means the ticket sizes of each investment has gone up. And you can see in the first half of year 2020, we have already 500 over 500 startup investors who have had successful transactions. And if we can extrapolate the same number, uh, if without COVID, we could have performed better than 2019. So the sentiments are pretty positive and bullish from investor sides and in the startup ecosystem. Ashutosh, if you can go to the next slide. Now you can see how the estimated figures are there, right? Even with the COVID, we have good amount of positive sentiment from investors here. That itself will showcase you that the startup ecosystem in India is very robust and capable of achieving much higher than any other ecosystem elsewhere globally. Now, in the next slide, so this is one interesting slide I wanted to showcase. The reason I wanted to showcase this is it is from 2019. So these are the sectors which you can categorize them into three categories. One is nascent sectors, which was agri-tech, gaming, manufacturing, and emerging sectors where mobility and travel and hospitality and edtech were there. And few of the mature sectors, fintech and health tech were there, and they were attracting a lot of investments. But post-COVID, there is a slight difference here, and it's not a surprise to anyone. The media and entertainment sector are moving little upwards to emerging sectors, and health tech and fintech are getting more mature than the previous time, and edtech has become a mature sector now, and because of entrance of big players in startup ecosystem like Vedantu and Byju's. Now, if you go to next slide, let us see how the hubs are there. Now there are three hubs in India which are very mature hubs. That is Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore. But after that, Hyderabad is the hub which has highest number of growth rate, or if I can say, which is estimated to be 51%, which is much higher than any of the established hub, and we are competing with best of the cities even inside India. So that is the kind of a growth we are experiencing at Hyderabad and India at large. And with that, you can also see there are many tier 2 towns which are attracting startups. So India is not only concentrated to certain cities or certain places. The environment is completely changing. The culture of starting up and working with technology is now becoming a very omnipresent phenomena for us. Now go to the next slide, Ashutosh. Like this is what I told you, right? Bangalore, Delhi, and Mumbai are big hotspots for us. Next, Hyderabad, Pune, and Chennai. Now, if you can go to next slide. So this is the cumulative funding. I just want to skip this slide because Vinita has already taken the slide, and she has already informed about the investment landscape of startup ecosystem. But anyway, like I said, the number of deals are less, but the startup by value it is very high. So the average ticket sizes are getting bigger and bigger. So $63 billion is my last year's full investments in cumulative valuation of startups, right? So go to the next slide. Now let us get into little deeper sectors. So we have understood one interesting factor in when we are studying different startups in India. Most of them, even though there are different verticals they are working in, but the horizontals, if we see, most of them are working in deep tech. So where AI, ML, IoT, blockchain, 3D printing, or big data analytics, these are the sectors, or these are the horizontals which different verticals are collaborating with. And we have seen 2019 is one year where most of these intersections are getting matured, and that is the reason we can confidently say that Indian startup ecosystems are completely tech centric and working with deep tech technologies. Ashutosh, next slide. So these trends and all of them have interestingly have given us uh, very good unicorns. Now the unicorns which I'm showing you are for 2019, but 2020 already we have more unicorns with us now. Postman being one, and HighRadio is the second. So there are many unicorns coming in, but it is estimated that by 2025 we would be having more than 125 unicorns in India. So that's a great number to achieve. And there are, you can see all the figures, right? There is 6x growth in the startup funding, and there's a 3x growth in the whole base of the startups with 50 million plus in total funding. So those numbers are very prominent and very encouraging for Indian startup ecosystem and other startups to come and work with Indian ecosystem. Yeah. Go on, Ashutosh. Ashutosh, next slide.
Yeah, trying to. Please continue. I'll.
Sure. So this is the kind of an interesting positive waves what we're seeing in Indian startup ecosystem. It's not about Indian startup ecosystem, but Ashutosh and team works with different individuals and organizations and institutions across the world. And what we have seen is all the other startups and stakeholders want to work with the Indian ecosystem mainly because of these digital railroads. There's a lot of being emphasis from policymakers. So we have different railroads like India Stack, National Health Stack, Skills Stack. There's a common drone policy, which is giving a standardized approach to innovation, and it is giving if I can say, a compliant way for startups to work with different emerging technologies and access to quality data to work on innovations using emerging technologies. Now, in my next slide, you can see, go on, Ashutosh. So we can even see that there's a local expansion, right? So what we have seen is it's not only B2B, but even in B2C, startups are exploring newer markets. So that's going deep inside rural areas, tier 3 cities to give their services digitally. And post-COVID, this we have seen a phenomena that this has been on rise. Yeah, go on, Ashutosh. Right now we could see that even globally 21% of Indian startups are primarily focusing on global markets. That itself will show you that there's a lot of prominence also sitting inside India. You can serve global markets, and that's a good trend to have for us. Go on, Ashutosh. And these are few of the examples which I want to show you that even Indian startups are having good acquisitions from different parties. Like, if I can say, in global corporates which are acquiring Indian startups, private equity, Indian corporates. So there's a good amount of mix and match happening with different stakeholders so that successful acquisitions can be done. And what we have seen here is, what you observe here is, it's not the Indian corporates or big companies acquiring startups, but it is Indian startups who are acquiring other startups. That shows the power and potential what early entrants or established or mature Indian startups are working across the globe. Yeah, go on. And what we have seen is there's a positive rise in number of corporate connections, investments, and open innovation activities. So this figures itself will show you that how there is an increase in the open innovation activity, which is enabling startup ecosystem to work very closely with corporate ecosystem in India. Go on, Ashutosh. Now this is an interesting thing. By 2025, we will become second biggest startup ecosystem in the world, which will have more than 105 unicorns with a cumulative valuation of 390 billion. And there are many direct and indirect jobs which Indian startup ecosystem will be creating. Go on, Ashutosh. So with this, I end and introduce you. So I've spoken a lot about Indian startup ecosystem, and to validate me and to share their experiences, there are two phenomenal gentlemen with us who are part of T-Hub startup ecosystem. And the best part is both of them are veterans. And I introduce you to Anish and Pranay. Welcome, both of you. And uh, over to you, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Yeah, now it's the time to shine the spotlight on our heroes, our founders. I'd like to invite Pranay Garg from HealthCon to share details about his startup.
Thank you, Ashutosh, and thank you very much for the speakers who've spoken prior to me, starting with Rama. And for me, associating with T-Hub has almost been like a baby, connected via the umbilical cord to the mother, because we started, we established in 2015, and we are also 5 years old. So when we were taking our baby steps into the entrepreneurial journey, as well as trying to figure out the startup world, our what shall I say? Our pillar was T-Hub. T-Hub was is one of the poster, what shall I say, a poster boy of the startup world currently, and we've heard eloquent, sort of readouts from the senior leadership. Uh, from a reality check perspective, I can say that HealthCon, after taking its baby steps, where we were incubated way back in 2016 March by NASCOM, to then going on to be able to do a Lab 32 program, being associated with the T Angels program, where the T Hub had ensured that startups were also would also be funded. We were part of that particular effort. So it's been a journey where I think we have, like I said, we've always been associated with the mothership, which is T Hub. So a little about what we do. HealthCon, it actually positions as a digital health enabler for care providers, where we provide a full stack solution to bridge the care delivery gap. And we do this by developing medical analytics, AI-driven computer vision-based algorithms, cloud services, telemedicine, all of that in a very converged sort of a way into a mobile screen that is with the doctor, just to provide an in-clinic experience between the point of care and the doctor. And that's really where I go back to Abhinav talking about deep tech and the horizontal and how we have moved along the years. We have been now successful in having some marquee names as our customers. That includes the Apollo Healthcare, where our solutions are deployed across 416 health centers across 3 states. And we have some global leaders as our strategic partners in augmented identity and electronic medical records. So this journey has not been possible by ourselves. We have had the complete ecosystem support from, say, T Hub, which initially included becoming a partner of Microsoft in the BizSpark program, which again was associated through T Hub, where we got cloud credits. Our first 3 years enabled us to play around in the sandbox, come up with various prototypes. All of that was courtesy the Microsoft the cloud credits, which was provided, the startup kit, which was provided, that helped a startup get on their feet and start crawling. The associations with T Hub brought us a lot of exposure to the industry and to the other prospects in terms of corporations, investors, other innovators, so that we could, kind of collaborate and grow as we went along. So absolutely indebted to T-Hub and our association with them. Now a little bit about the T-Hub. You heard a lot about T-Hub from being an ecosystem partner, but I do want to specifically mention from a mentoring perspective, lately we just finished the Lab 32 program, later part of last year and early part of this year. The mentoring program did definitely help during this period of COVID, because while all of us have gained over the last few years, but a reality check that was provided by the mentor, I specifically want to mention Punyabrata Sen, who's also likely to speak after a while, where he handheld us during this very crazy time when the pandemic was hitting and kind of sort of consolidating. When we got our reality checks on risk so that we could identify specific risks, come down from growth to business continuity, talk about business transformation, validating our solutions, talk about the levers of business transformation, and then apply them towards a kind of a near-term focus where we could leverage the opportunity of the pandemic being a health technology startup, and definitely a little on customer success that also helps in how you talk, what you talk, and how you start closing your opportunities. So this has been a great journey. Absolutely wonderful journey for anybody who wants to be reaching out into the startup ecosystem within India, and in India, specifically Hyderabad or the Telangana state. We have so many of these policies that Ashutosh has read out and have been talked about by Vinuta and the other speakers. So I'm happy to be talking to you today as one of the startups that has benefited from the ecosystem and into the entrepreneurial world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. From one hero to another, I'd like to invite Anish to share about his startup and his experience.
Firstly, I don't think we are heroes. We're just trying to do our bit into the startup ecosystem, right? So about me, I am like Pranay sir. I'm also a veteran, right? I was a pilot in the Indian Air Force for around 20 years. This is sort of my retirement job, my post-second career, right? And about MyGate, so around 2015 or so, right, we noticed a lot of transition, a lot of urbanization, which was happening in India. A lot of people are moving towards cities, and they ended up staying in gated communities or condominiums, right? Primarily for two reasons: of security and for a sense of community, right? But we felt that that gap of digitization at the gate or for the security had not yet happened. So right now we provide a holistic solution for security management and community management for gated communities. Right? So where are we right now? So right now we are in approximately 2.5 million homes. We started our journey in 2016, right? And we are in about 2.5 million homes. We secured 2.5 million homes across the country. We are in 24 cities. And we have approximately around 15,000 gated communities on board our platform. Right? That is the scale at which we are working right now. Every month, we add approximately 200,000 homes onto the platform right now. So that is the rate at which we are scaling. We aim to do 5x every year. Right? And when it comes to funding, we've raised a couple of rounds, totaling to approximately 65 million USD is what we have managed to raise over the past 3 years. Right? So I think T-Hub India, more than anything else, is an extremely exciting place to be in. Firstly, is that where would you find such scale? Right? If you were a startup and if you were to scale, right, how can you miss a population of 1.3 billion users? Right? No matter which startup you're in, that is the kind of scale that India offers to you. Right? If you were in any other country, right, 2.5 million homes, right, sounds like a big deal. Right? In India, we believe that we probably are somewhere close to around 15% or 20% of the market share is what we have captured. Right? That puts us somewhere close to around 7.5 million homes. Right? That is 75 lakh homes. 7,500,000 homes is a great deal anywhere. So one thing that India has to offer you is scale. The second is like a very vibrant startup ecosystem. T-Hub, for that matter, has been a rallying point for most startup ecosystems in the country, right? We see a lot of these delegations coming and taking pointers from T-Hub on how to run an ecosystem. We've been one of the beneficiaries of T-Hub. When we started off, when we moved to Hyderabad to multi-locate in 2018, we joined T-Hub's first Lab 32 program. It helped us a great. It helps us a lot. More than anything else, it put us in touch with a lot of founders, a lot of co-founders, right? At the top, it's always lonely, right? A founder needs to engage with somebody who's facing similar challenges, or to engage with somebody who's just a couple of rungs above him in the order, right? So so that he can learn from those mistakes. 1,03,000 startups, right? Huge number, right? 13,000 startups in just last year, right? Huge number. So what I think T-Hub offers is probably the ability for you to engage with a lot of other startups and a lot of other founders who are thinking similar to you. Right? It also, what it gives you is gives you an amazing opportunity to engage with a lot of frontier technologies, right? It could be technologies in the sensing space, like, you know, it could be something to do with computer vision, or it could be biometrics, it could be facial recognition, it could be anything of that sort, right? That is the sensor technologies, or to processing technologies like, you know, AI, ML, neural networking, NLP, and so on and so forth, right? And also to the execution, where you could have, you know, drones and so on and so forth to execute whatever your intelligence is working on, right? All of them under one single platform, right? So if you consider each of them as building blocks, right? Imagine the number of permutations and combinations that you're able to do to enhance and to empower your own technology. Right? So that is what actually I believe is the key takeaway from T-Hub. It brings frontier technologies under one platform. It helps founders of those frontier technologies to engage with each other, right? And you put them into a permutation and combination of all these frontier technologies, one or the other. You could build layers. You can probably build layers on each other. You can probably work them on them parallelly. You can fit them into your own ecosystem or your own product, right? I think that is probably the beauty of an ecosystem like T-Hub, right? So that has probably been our biggest takeaway. Yes, it has been a great enabler, right? It has been a great enabler. It brings out a lot of innovators out of their shell, right? It helps them a lot through programs like the Lab 32 program. We were probably the first batch, and we benefited a lot from that. Yes, we definitely have benefited a lot of that. So those are my key takeaways from T-Hub. Yeah, thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you. And what do you do when you have to take a ride and go to an uncharted territory? You use GPS, right? And similarly, the GPS for all the startups are the mentors who tell you, I mean, where to reach and how to reach possibly in case you have to. And all this is enabled by Mansi Seth, manager for mentor engagement at T-Hub. We're racing against time, but I would request her to cover how mentorship is being differently, I would say, approached at T-Hub, and how mentors engage with startups and add a lot of value.
Thanks, Ashutosh. So as he rightly said, right, so mentorship actually completes the whole ecosystem. I think that was the last piece that was left. And for us, we value mentorship a lot. They bring in that intellectual capital that we as startups really need. Yeah, we need the funding capital as well, but to reach that funding capital, there is this guidance, or there is this perspective that we as entrepreneurs sometimes miss out on, and that's where you know, a mentor comes in. And mentors play different roles. They come to the table wherein they bring in years of experience. They play the role of a sounding board sometimes. Sometimes you just want to talk to someone, right? Or sometimes they play a role of a devil's advocate, asking you the right questions and, you know, triggering those thought processes which are required, because you're so much into your business as a startup that kind of triggering of thought process is very essential. And as Pranay rightly pointed out, that reality check is what
a person of that experience brings in. For us at T-Hub, just to be very specific as to what we do, our focus is primarily to bring in a mentor with the focus of generating startup success. Okay, we focus primarily on delivering value, and as I said, they are the last piece that complete the ecosystem and not only strengthen it, but also with their kind of knowledge that they bring in. That is the value addition, the intellectual capital that I mentioned earlier. That is what they add to the ecosystem. So for us, we primarily focus on ensuring that you get the right mentor on board, right? So we do a lot of due diligence or a lot of when it comes to screening when it comes to finding the right mentor for you, depending on the stage of startup that you at every situation in your startup journey. You as a startup, you will require various different mentors or various different people you want to reach out to, who will give you the kind of exposure that you need. And that's where the right match, okay, happens. And that's where we reach out to the right people and ensure that the startup doesn't, has the right people on board. And yeah, can you move on to the next slide, Ashutosh? So to give you the strength of the mentor network that T-Hub has, we onboarded 88 mentors so far, but we engage with more than 150 mentors at any given point through the entire course of the journey. So we engage as well as onboard, and we have 88 mentors right now, covering 90 subject areas and in different domains, right from health, education to clean energy, as well as logistics. So this is the kind of strength that T-Hub provides you. And any help on that front, we will be happy to support and help you guys grow from one level to the next level. So, can you go to the next slide? So yeah, I take immense pleasure in introducing you to one of our mentors at T-Hub. He's not only a mentor with T-Hub, but he has been mentoring a lot of startups across the Indian ecosystem and has been playing a very instrumental role when it comes to the perspective or the capital that I was talking about. He brings in more than 35 years of experience to the table. And I think his mentee is here, Pranay. He already mentioned about him earlier. So without much taking too much of his time, I would like to request Mr. Punyabrata to share a few words about his experience being a mentor and how important it is for a startup to have this role there, in their kitty. So over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, everyone, for being around today. It's a great pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be talking to all of you and sort of getting you introduced to the Indian ecosystem on the startup side. And what do we as mentors play in it? And I think Pranay is here. So, Pranay talked about our journey. One of the things that as a mentor that I try to do is I try to help the founders, the venture, take their dreams and their ideas and make it into a reality without getting into the nitty-gritty of the work, which is what the founders do. So sort of we do a guidance, a reality check, as Pranay loves to call it. And I'm going to refer to Pranay because he's there. So one of the things that we did was when we started, I was mentoring in the Lab 32 of T-Hub. The T-Hub has a fantastic mentor connect. And we just talked to the live wire, Mansi over here. She is a real live wire connecting each and every mentor to the appropriate startup, finding out what the startup needs, hunting out a mentor who could add value at that point of time, and then switching mentors between startups. So she does a fantastic job. She's supported by a strong team, and the team is there. I don't know if they're there here. Some of the names that you're going to come up and meet are Harshit and Aju and the rest of the guys. All young people, raring to go. They know what makes young entrepreneurs tick. and it can get them to connect in with the right people to do the right things. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to talk about my experience. And I'm going to take the example of HealthCon. HealthCon, as Pranay would have told you, which he did, is in the health tech area. So they're working with health technology and what we call telemedicine, distance medicine, and using a video interface, and he talked about it. So when we sort of connected, and the way we do mentoring, the way I do mentoring, is, we sit over a cup of coffee, tea, or whatever your favorite poison is, and we sort of, talk it over. Sometimes the startup goes through some sort of a cycle where things are not working out. Sometimes the startup has a blind spot. Like we all have blind spots. And you need someone to look over your shoulder, tell you what the blind spot is. In our case, the blind spot came in the form of a virus called the COVID-19. And then suddenly when it hit us, everybody was scrambling around. And business suddenly came to a grinding, screeching halt. And that's where it was it was a fascinating struggle for persons like me. And I sat with Pranay and his team. And the first thing that came up is, okay, guys, you were running after growth. Now, how do we sustain it? How do you continue to the business at this point in time? There was no, and this was sometime in February, March, early days. We are in November. We had no idea how long that virus is going to last. So the first thing we did was look at the risk. And Pranay, talked to you about the risk and what are the risks that are facing HealthCon, how they could manage it. And Pranay has told you he's implemented that. The second thing that was part of the growth strategy, but we had to pivot it slightly to get this challenge off the board, is how AI, artificial intelligence, can help. And suddenly, artificial intelligence was an enabler of growth. And now we had a community, a whole wide community of 8 billion people around the world who are facing this pandemic. And so we said that, okay, guys, why don't you take a look at how AI can help you predict community health assessment. And Pranay has actually implemented that and getting that to work. And as you all would have known, when the pandemic hit us, customers, and especially B2B, the guys in business, they were reluctant to actually talk to you about business. So there was this difficulty in discovering customers, developing them, acquiring them, onboarding them. So we went through a sort of a series of risk and reward mechanism, because now it's a different ballgame altogether. It's no longer I sell, you buy. It's more of a case of how do we partner ourselves to ride out this diabolic virus that is staring us in the face. And Pranay's team responded very well, exceedingly well, and they turned up and they turned around and they did what it did, and Pranay has told you all about that. So I'm not going to say much more, and I think there's not much time anyway. So basically, as mentors, we try to do something what a mentor does. So MENTOR, we try to motivate people. We try to help them to explore new ideas, push their boundaries. We nudge them when there are small hurdles and bumps on the road ahead. We help them to build up teams within themselves as a startup, teams with investors, teams within the ecosystem. It's all about teamwork. We help them to spot opportunities. And then we help them and show them how they can realize it. And then we move on to another startup. So that's what we do as a mentor. Thank you, Mansi. Back to you. I hope I didn't take too much of time.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mansi. I would like to now invite my colleague Priyanka. We have a dedicated team here to take care of international startups and to deliver whatever they need to make their journey in India successful. So we have Priyanka, we have Harshit, we have Geeta, we are guided by Sudhir, Rama, and our CEO Ravi himself. I would like her to share what is the experience of international startups at TIHA. She would like to show you a video of an incoming startup delegation from North America. And possibly you can take a glimpse of what you can expect to see when you.
Thank you, Ashutosh, for the good intro. So, hi everyone, this is Priyanka Ravla. So, I work with Ashutosh and I handle international programs execution at TIHA. Not wasting too much of your time, I would like to give you an example of one of the success story that we have implemented with Canadian government, which is called Global Bridge Canada India program. So just give me one second, we'll just float it through. So during this program, we had 9 Canadian startups coming to India where they have gone through a 9-month market access acceleration program, where the first 4 months we've prepped them, made them ready with what is the kind of market that is existing in Indian market with respect to their specific sectors. What is this? How big is the market in their sectors? What kind of competitors that they can witness in that particular sector that they are coming from? And the last 2 months were focused more on how to help them on launching their product or making them product ready for Indian market, right? So we did this with the help of few experts that we have on marketing, go-to-market strategy, branding. Then we had few experts coming down and analyzing their tech platform, looking out for synergies, etc. And we also had one-on-one mentoring sessions to all of the startups where they could meet with us and help them understand what is the market opportunity that they are facing in India, what are the challenges that they are facing, and what are the opportunities that they can witness in that particular market.
Hello, Ashutosh, is there something wrong with Priyanka's connection?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like I lost the connection anyway. This was a 9-month acceleration program where 9 Canadian startups have gone through mentoring sessions, India readiness workshop, then also an innovation workshop for 12 days where they could meet their potential clients, establish the first trials with them for 2 months. So I'll favorite one of my favorite startup called O2. They generate these oxygen masks with a filtering within the mask. These people, they actually came to India thinking that there would not be any competitors. There was a surprise to them when they saw the scenario that there were a lot of masks that are existing. In fact, there were brands like Amazon, Pantaloons, etc. They were selling out these masks. So it was a kind of surprise for them. They had to revamp their product suiting to the Indian customer needs, digitize it. The designs of the mask had to be changed, etc. And in the end, they got opportunity to work with Hyderabad traffic system here in Hyderabad itself. And they went to the national level also, and they met few of the departments and army people who were ready to use it, especially when the gunfires happen in the battlefield, right? So they found a new division of the market. Basically, they never expected that they would find a market with government or army, but in the end, in India, they could cater much to the things that they couldn't expect, right? So this is one of my favorite example that I like to quote. I'll just walk you through a 3-minute video of what is the program about, how we created impact. I hope you can hear it. Please let me know if you cannot. Can you guys hear the video?
No, Priyanka, we can. Let me try.
Okay. Yeah, one second. Still not being able to hear. Ashutosh, can you try doing it? I am not being able to do it.
Sure, I'll do this.
I'd like to invite you to follow us through the program of Global Bridge, Canada, India, where we help Canadian startups entering the Indian market.
India as a marketplace, because obviously there's 1.2 billion people here. Site to Site is a SaaS-based online platform for construction companies.
India is a really exciting and growing market in the field of sports, and we build and manufacture wearable and software solutions that help athletes and coaches perform at their best.
Huge opportunity. Lots of Indian citizens are now traveling abroad, and of course there's a fair amount of tourism inbound into India. So in terms of market opportunity, it's absolutely massive for us.
So you have a lot of young, qualified talent, a lot of engineers that are coming out of these schools and they're just waiting to build something. And what we do is we help hardware businesses drastically accelerate the development.
From our initial research, believe that India could have the same opportunity for us. We know that we need to adapt a business model.
India, unfortunately, has 14 of the top 20 most polluted cities in the world. With our product, we're finally now looking at this market. We design and manufacture underwater laser scan.
Doing business in India for Indians is crazy difficult. I can't even imagine how difficult it should be for foreigners. As a ecosystem support, I think is hugely beneficial, especially for startups that are coming to India for the first time.
Few takeaways. One, this idea of focusing on a country. Second thing is it's actually much easier to work with and manage.
Canadian companies have been working for 2.5 months with T-Hub. Prior to the program, they were working on product localization and understanding what their business model assumptions are.
In no other accelerator program or support program have I witnessed the level of interaction that T-Hub was able to bring to us.
And through T-Hub's connections and leveraging some of the resources we've had here, we were able to get in communication with the chief of the police service. They've agreed to do a trial with us with our product. So we will be outfitting a number of members of the police with our mask.
Well, I have a meeting tomorrow in Chennai, which is at the National Institute of Ocean Technology with the chief scientist. We wouldn't have been able to make these contacts without the wonderful mentors and the program of T-Hub.
I think my best contribution was demystifying India for them.
The best part of the program has actually been the connections that we were given throughout it. So we've really been able to be connected to the right people here to actually be able to establish the type of partnerships that we want to.
To help make the right connections with the right people and make sure that we're most effectively using the time that we have here.
I think having an incubator like this, connecting with Canada, for us to launch into the Indian marketplace before this, we honestly had no idea how to even start or where to start.
T-Hub was extremely helpful in getting to the right person, identifying who we needed to talk to, the decision maker. And exactly that, it shortened the process by at least 6 to 8 months.
If you're looking to come to India, if you're looking at the Indian market at all, T-Hub comes highly recommended.
Thank you so much for your attendance today. I have to thank my team for the presentations, for sharing their views, our guests, our startups, our heroes. And thank you everyone here for joining us today. all the startup founders from Europe, the ecosystem actors. Thank you, Lena, for this opportunity. Back to you.
Thank you, Ashutosh. It was a simply fabulous lineup, I must say, of speakers and a really good representation of the investors, the mentors, the startups. It was, something we can all connect to and take back home, especially for the European startups. And it's fabulous. I mean, this goes out to both CCamp and T-Hub, for you all to bring your speakers together and really showcase the Indian innovation ecosystem in this virtual time when, people are not physically available, being able to reach out to them and bring them here today. I'm extremely grateful for, your timeliness. We've actually put this together in less than a month. And congratulations to both your teams for doing this, and really, the kind of messages shared today have addressed something that I've heard all along in the last 2 years since we launched this pilot in 2018. The question that a lot of European incubators and startups asked was, why India? They're so used to going to, I heard Rama talking about the United States or maybe China. And the question that was on their mind was, why India? And really, this was an opportunity for us to showcase to them in real time, why India through the eyes of the startups, through the eyes of the investors, through the mentors, through you who work every day, day in and day out, solving the problems, of the startups. Ashutosh, I couldn't help reading your screen where you said, if you're going through hell, keep going. And if you're a startup today, you are you wake up every morning with either a feeling of euphoria or of struggle. And yeah, the message is keep going. And India has all of the infrastructure in your wonderful buildings that you have at both CCamp and T-Hub. You have the services, you have the experience. And really now, I think the message to the European startups is, this is just the beginning. So this is not the end of a program, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a new opportunity for all of you to now foray, into India, make those first questions. You see the number of people that are out here saying that they can help you. So please take advantage of, what's been set up by the European Commission for all of us. So what I want to do is first request all of you to turn on your cameras. I should have done this earlier when, we had, almost 70 participants, for this program. So can I request everyone to turn on their cameras for a quick photo opportunity? And then, so please turn on your cameras. We want to see all the beautiful faces. I think still afternoon in Europe, but late evening in India. Be good to have all your cameras on as a show of solidarity to this mission that we are all on to. Yeah, so I'll just ask,
And while we are doing that, Lena, I really would like to join in the thanks and overwhelming information, commitment. We really have selected 2 top incubators. And every time that I see the presentation, I'm hooked onto it, and they find ways and innovations to do more. I also heard from the last presentation on Canada, it's connecting, and I think that's where we are, but I want more. I really want this to turn into a journey, and I hope that's the beginning of a co-creation, co-development journey. And I want it also to be 2 ways. So also a possibility for India to go and land in Europe, but we work on that next. Let's first now turn this journey to something more concrete. But thank you for all your time and your excellent presentations. And if the startups are not convinced yet, well, go to hell, right? Okay, so now we set up a nice smile.
Yep.
Well, Lena and I were always smiling. That's no problem.
Yes, and in the meantime, if the startups have any questions, this is open house time now. Would love to hear from the Europeans. I mean, even if you have feedback and comments, please unmute yourselves And if you have any comments, if you have any questions, please do share that with us. So if we have no questions, that means, T-Hub and C-Camp, your speakers, I think, overwhelmed with all of the information. They know it all now about coming to India.
Maybe we can take those questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if there are any final comments, even from C-Camp or from T-Hub, please feel free to, make your observations and comments as well.
Sure. In fact, I guess the question that why you should come to India is answered. India is a land of billion-plus opportunities, and it's a big market, but it has big problems too. And through the European Innovation Zone, all of us together will ensure that you meet big opportunities and the big troubles they're filtered, and you can partner someone you can trust, and your journey here is smooth. It should be an absolutely nice experience for you to soft land here. And whether it is IT or IoT or health or retail or logistics or deep tech, emerging tech, whatever you're working on, India is the place to build, and India is also the place to sell. It's the center for, the destination for all top global companies, because it's a leader in frugal innovation, and you can access our world-class talent here. India is the place where a lot of new emerging technologies, they're being built and exported all over the world. And for those who are still not convinced, you need to be here to experience it, witness it, and believe it. And for those who are convinced, when you land here, our team would be there at the airport to receive you and to make your journey smooth.
And also to start supporting you virtually now. I think that's an important message, that not to wait for the flights to open up and to come here. And, a good way to start is to start virtually, save yourselves actually the time and money of travel, and, start connecting virtually and build your relations with these two ecosystems.
Yes, and as we speak, a lot of our programs have gone completely virtual. Thanks to a lot of the new tools and technology platforms, we are able to work with startups and actors all across the world. And India has improved its ease of doing business. You don't need to be here actually to incorporate a new company, get a license, get your tax registration, sign up for on a platform, or to make your products physically available anywhere. We'll ensure that you get the right connects, the right mentor connects, the right investor connects, corporate and customer connects. And each one of startups will be treated differently, and we'll offer you a customized solution for your varying needs.
Great. Shubham, C-Camp, any last words? You need to unmute, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Ashutosh covered almost all the aspects. I have just few sectors or domains to add to that. Like C-Camp is into agri-tech, health tech, right? So we'll be providing all those necessary requirements, case-to-case basis. We'll provide customized, services for you, right? When it comes to all the deep tech in life sciences, given that Bangalore is Silicon Valley of India, and C-Camp is into surrounded by multiple institutions. So we have all those ecosystem in place, and definitely will be helping out to all the startups. Yeah.
Tanya?
No, I took the floor without you giving it to me. I thought it was fantastic, and yes, we need to follow that up. I said both ways, but as Ashutosh was also saying, there's various dimensions of India, you need to see it. But also what you said, Lena, please use the virtual mode. Because I hope people heard it, that despite COVID and we are in, it's growing. And already 21% of the Indians are going global. That's 1 out of 5. But I wonder, I think that globality is not yet sufficiently towards Europe. So we have to work on that. And we cannot do it alone. We depend on you, multipliers, European stakeholders. And we are here to say, India is great, believe in India, and we will change the narrative that it's distrust by default, but trust.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think this entire session has been an absolute pleasure to host, for all of you. I think the collaboration on all fronts, including the member states, I must say, a number of you have joined in today, the European member states, the European incubators who are part of the network along with your startup. As Tanya mentioned, you all are the main multipliers who can spread the message, learn about India and share it with your startups and let them know that there is a way in now for all of them. And, with that note, I'd like to say good afternoon, good evening, and good night to all of you who have joined us. Thank you very much, and we'll all be in touch. Bye-bye.
Okay. Do you have the picture, Lena?
Yes, we do.
Ah, good. Fantastic.
Yeah, and thank you to my colleague Subhav, who so patiently actually, managed this entire program for us from the back end. So thank you for that as well. He was the one taking the picture today.
Okay, good. Excellent. Thanks a lot. No, this was fantastic. We follow it up. Bye-bye. Thank you.